What if heroes from every universe faced a civil war of the gods? Episode 3. Let's get started. Ben Beckman was clearly confused by what Chitsujo had said to him. The future of the intelligence division. Was he being fired from his job? I'm not sure I understand, sir. Beckman admitted. Are you dissatisfied with my performance as commander of the intelligence division already? Chitsujo was surprised at Beckman's question. He then broke out into laughter, scratching his head sheepishly. Oh no, far from it, he said. I'm sorry if I scared you. Perhaps I should have worded the question differently, huh? Beckman's mouth dropped open at Chitsujo's words. No, I'd like to discuss something else with you. Chitsujo turned serious at this. I asked a lot of you. When you became the commander of the intelligence division, I recently realized I might have asked too much of you. This confused Beckman even more. I don't understand, sir. I asked you to come up with successful strategies against enemies you have never seen before. I asked you to think blindly, and I'm sorry. You don't need to apologize, sir. But I do, Beckman, and I would like to make it up to you. How so? I would like to give you help in running the intelligence division. They will be of the same rank as you. Co-leaders. Chitsujo nodded. The three people I have in mind are master tacticians in their respective worlds and are therefore experts on their respective enemies. They will assist you in strategizing about enemies you are not experienced with. I see, and who are these people you had in mind? Beckman asked, knowing that there were plenty of worthy people in the intelligence division. Well, it wasn't easy, Chitsujo admitted. Everyone is qualified in their own way, and eventually I was forced to summon a few of the beings I resurrected to this place to help. But I think I brought in some good people. Chitsujo then called out, you can come in now. 3 people then walked into the war room. 2 men and 1 woman. The woman was a petite girl in a frilly white dress with blonde hair. She was smiling at Beckman in a friendly manner. 1 man was dressed like a hobo with platform sandals and a checkered hat. He also, strangely, had a fan out. The second man had a scarred face and was dressed in the attire of a leaf ninja. He had his black hair tied up in a ponytail, making it a pineapple-like hairstyle. Also he was trying not to fall asleep. Beckman blinked in surprise at Chitsujo's choices. These were not the kind of people he had in mind. He vaguely knew the hobo, but not the other 2. I'm sure you know Kazuki Urahara. Chitsujo gestured to the hobo. Kazuki waved his fan. A pleasure to formally meet you, fellow commander. He said jovially. I may be just a handsome shopkeeper, but I'll do my best. Beckman looked at Kazuki. He had never once considered that Kazuki was actually a part of the intelligence division. So, wait, you're supposed to be here? He asked in confusion. I thought we were just giving the local hobo a warm place to sleep. Kazuki went over to sulk in a corner. Chitsujo's sweat dropped at Beckman's choice of words. Beckman really had no tact sometimes. I'll just let the other 2 introduce themselves, Chitsujo said, going over to comfort Kazuki. The woman waved, smiling. My name is Mavis Vermilion. She introduced herself. I am Fairy Tail's first guild master. I am known far and wide as the Fairy Tactician. Fairy Tactician, huh, Beckman thought. Not a very intimidating name, but she's confident in herself. All right, Fairy Tactician, I'll give you the benefit of doubt. I can take you a bit more seriously than the homeless guy over there. Beckman, he's not homeless, Chitsujo told him. Beckman ignored Chitsujo. He then turned to the third person, waiting to hear his introduction. His mouth dropped open when he saw the man with his eyes closed and snoring lightly. The man was sleeping. He was sleeping on his feet. Wake up, you idiot, Beckman shouted. Chitsujo face-palmed at this. This first meeting is almost as bad as the time Ichigo, Natsu, Naruto, and Luffy were sent to get to know each other. He lamented. The man grunted and slowly woke up. Did I doze off again? What a drag. Yes, you did, Beckman shouted. Now introduce yourself. Mavis giggled at the man's antics. Wanting to get back to sleep, the man decided to introduce himself, like Beckman told him. My name is Shikaku Nara. I was the Jonin commander of the Hidden Leaf Village before my death and before Lord Chitsujo decided to bring me back to help him. I like shogi, sleeping, and I wasn't asking for your likes, Beckman shouted. Chitsujo cleared his throat, stopping an argument from escalating. Anyways, Beckman, in spite of their looks, each are arguably he most intelligent people in their respective worlds. Treat them with respect as your intellectual equals. Together, you four will make a difference in this war. Beckman's sweat dropped as he once Agai. Took a good look at the three people he would working closest with. Kazuki, who was still crying in a corner, Mavis, who was smiling brightly, and Shikaku, who fell asleep again. We're doomed, Beckman thought. There's no other way to put it, we're doomed. Aster Mountains. With the battle over, the 4th Division, quickly reunited. They also took this time to gather their dead. Byakuya Kuchiki S.'d with Shikamaru Nara as the lazy tactician tallied their losses. Our losses total up to 3,213 dead and 6,579 wounded. Shikamaru read grimly. That leaves nearly a fifth of our fighting forces out of fighting condition. Will the wounded be in fighting condition soon? Byakuya asked. Hard to say, Shikamaru admitted. The medical division should get most of our wounded up and running quickly. However, there are some who are seriously injured and won't be in fighting condition for a few days. Byakuya sighed grimly. He then looked out at Eve Tierm, who was still standing over the body of his friend. Byakuya saw the look on Eve's face and sighed again. That look will be on so many other faces before this war is over. He thought sadly, let us concentrate on treating the wounded and caring for our dead. Byakuya told the young man who was quickly becoming his second in command. We'll move out once everyone is ready. Yes sir, Commander Kuchiki. Shikamaru replied. Eve Tierm's solemn and saddened look said it all. One of his closest friends, Ren Akatsuki, was now dead, a casualty of war. What was worse? How am I gonna explain this to Sherry? He wondered to himself. A soldier from Chitsujo's world walked up to him. Was this man your friend, wizard? He asked. Eve nodded at this. His name was Ren Akatsuki. He's been part of the team I've been in for years now. Does the rest of your team know? Eve shook his head at this. The third member, Hibiki, is in the intelligence division. Our master, Ichiya, is in the 2nd division. Eve paused before continuing. But the one person who really needs to know right now is his fiancée. Sherry. She's in the 5th division. The soldier nodded at this. I agree completely, he said. Tell me, the soldier continued, would you like to tell her? Give her some closure. Eve nodded. Well, allow me to help you then. Eve's eyes widened in surprise. While our messengers are taught the transportation technique that was used to bring you to Lord Chitsujo's world, the officers in his army are taught the same technique as well to deliver information quickly when we are outside battle. I am an officer in Lord Chitsujo's army, and I would be happy to help you. Eve bowed to the officer. Thank you, he said, trying to hold back the tears. Now, normally a seal is required, but there is a way to bypass the technique and it is only known amongst the officers. The officer explained, if we have a mental connection with someone, we can transport to their location. All officers are required to have a mental connection of sorts. Just hold on to me and I will take you to the location of my friend in the 5th division. Eve grabbed hold of the officer, who clapped his hands together. There was a blinding flash of light, and both men were gone. Location of the 5th division. A flash of light stopped everyone in the 5th division cold. Eve Tierm and the officer appeared in front of them. The officer stepped forward. Will Sherry Blendy please step forward? A beautiful, blue-eyed, pink-haired woman broke from the crowd and looked at Eve and the officer confusedly. Her attention was mostly focused on Eve. Eve, what's going on? She asked in confusion. Eve looked at Sherry solemnly. Sherry, there's no easy way for me to say this. Eve trailed off, unable to say it. Sherry looked at Eve. She was starting to get worried, wondering what exactly Eve was trying to say that involved her. The officer looked at Eve. Tell her, young man. The officer encouraged. Eve took a deep breath and gave Sherry a sad look. I'm so sorry, Sherry, Ren is dead. Sherry froze at this. Her eyes widened. I'm so sorry, Eve repeated. Within the crowd, a young man with fangs and tribal markings on his face walked up to Lucy Heartfilia, the nearest wizard he could find. His name was Kiba Inuzuka. Hey, do you know that woman? Kiba asked. Lucy nodded. Her name is Sherry. What's her relationship with this Ren guy? Lucy looked down sadly. Ren Akatsuki was her fiancé. Kiba's eyes widened. Oh, he said, genuinely pained from hearing this. Damn, that is bad. Lucy looked at the stunned Sherry. I just can't help but wonder how she's going to take it. Sherry finally spoke after what seemed like forever. How did he die? She asked lowly. Eve lowered his head. He was killed in action on the battlefield. We were fighting together and... Before Eve could finish, Sherry moved with great speed. At the very next moment, Eve was on the ground, clutching a red mark on his face. You bastard, she screamed, hitting him again. What the hell were you doing? I thought you two were teammates. The officer was tempted to step in. But a bruised Eve held up a hand. Let her get it out. He insisted. This surprised the officer, but he said nothing. Sherry continued hitting Eve with everything she had. Ren's dead, she screamed. My love is dead and it's all your fault. Lucy watched this beating happen with horror. Oh God, she muttered, sick to her stomach, this is horrible. Kiba shook his head. This is too much, he said. I don't care how upset you are, this is too much. Before Kiba could step in, Naruto Uzumaki stepped forward. Hey, come on, don't you think he's had enough? He asked. Kiba nodded and stepped in as well. Naruto's right, he said, you're gonna kill the poor guy at this rate. I hope I do. Sherry screamed furiously at them. Kiba and Naruto's eyes widened. This was definitely going too far. Sherry went back to hitting Eve. You bastard, she screamed repeatedly. You bastard, you bastard, you bastard. I'm so sorry, Eve said, starting to feel numb from the beating. You're sorry, Sherry screeched. Sorry won't bring Ren back. He's dead because of you. Sherry hit Eve yet again and knocked him to the floor. It's just not fair, Sherry cried. Why did he have to die? Why did it have to be him? Sherry managed to glare at Eve through her tears. Eve, she began, I wish that it had been you who. Kiba had heard enough. With quickness you would expect from an Inuzuka, Kiba sped towards Sherry and punched her clean in the face. Interrupting her next few words. Everyone gasped at what the Inuzuka had just done. A brown-haired woman with tribal markings stepped forward, glaring at Kiba. Kiba, what the hell? Damn it, sis, you know I did the right thing. Kiba shouted. You and I both know what she was about to say to this guy. Hana Inuzuka glared at Kiba. Yeah, but still. Enough, Hannah. A fanged woman with tribal markings and spiky brown hair stepped forward. Kiba did the right thing, even if it did seem wrong. What, you too, Mom? Hannah asked in amazement. Sume Inuzuka nodded. What she was about to say. Things like that can destroy a pack from the inside out. Kiba nodded in agreement with his mother's statement. He then turned to Sherry, who was getting to her feet. You little bastard, she said angrily. How dare you interrupt me? How dare I? What about you? Kiba inquired. This woman was making Kiba angrier by the second. Damn it, that was going way too far. Kiba told her. Oh, really? Yes, really, Kiba shouted. What the hell is wrong with you? You should be thanking me, damn it. If I hadn't stopped you, you would have said something that you couldn't take back. At that moment, Wizard and the Shinobi were in a heated glaring contest. A contest that seemed to last for several minutes before Eve Tirm spoke up in a pained voice. It's all right if you blame me, Sherry. Eve said. I understand, you're sad. I'm not even going to get mad over what you just did to me. Sherry turned her attention back to Eve. But I don't care if you are mad, or if you stay mad at me. Eve continued. Because I intend to get stronger so I won't have to lose anyone else in this war. Eve struggled to his feet. I know I'm not in any position to tell you anything else, but I still suggest you do the same. Eve walked over to the officer. Take me back to the 4th Division. He requested. The officer nodded, and the two vanished in a flash of light a moment later. Sherry scoffed at Eve. If he thin, he's off the hook, he's got another thing coming. Sherry then felt a chill go down her spine. She looked over her shoulder to see the majority of the 5th Division glaring at her. Kiba shook his head disdainfully as he went back in formation. What are you all staring at me for? Sherry asked. Commander Jello Fernandez stepped forward. The glare on his face said it all. Be glad I don't court you for striking one of your allies, Sherry Blendy. With that, Jello went back into formation. Sherry then realized what was happening. From this moment on, she was an outcast. Everyone had picked their side in this feud. And it was not hers. Aster Mountains. Byakuya Kuchiki stared impassively as Kana Alberona gave her report on Sniper King Usopp's actions during the battle. Byakuya was key. Tay disgusted when he heard of Usopp's cowardice. There was simply no other way to put it. And that about covers it, sir, said Kana. Kana then looked at Usopp. To be fair, however, I will let Usopp tell his side of the story. Kana concluded. Usopp stepped forward. Choose your next few words carefully, Usopp. Byakuya told them. Depending on what you say, your punishment will either be lighter or heavier. Usopp looked down in shame. There is nothing I can say in my own defense, Commander Kuchiki. I got 4 people killed because I was, and still am a coward. Really? Byakuya was actually surprised by Usopp's words. You have no excuses, nothing to say in your own defense at all. Usopp shook his head. All I have to say is how much I regret what my actions have caused. Usopp admitted. Byakuya waited patiently as Usopp continued. I've always been a coward. No matter how many times I have acknowledged it, I have never been able to rid myself of that habit. Part of the reason maybe it's never gotten anyone killed. Now though, things have changed. What is your point in all this, Usopp? Byakuya asked. Usopp looked at Byakuya with determination in his eyes. Sir, he shouted, I know I don't deserve it, but I would like to request another chance to make things right. Give me the chance and I will become the bravest soldier in the division. I will make sure that my cowardice will never get anyone killed again. Kana smiled at Usopp's determination. Byakuya seemed to be in deep thought for a while. He then sighed as he came to a decision. If you truly believe that you can make things right, then I will give you the chance you desire. Byakuya decided. However, Byakuya continued, that being said you still need to be punished. I understand, Commander, Usopp said, I will take any punishment you wish. Usopp, for the remainder of this war you are under probation. You will be at my side for the remainder of this war where I will observe your every move. If I see you take even a single step back, I will either send you to Lord Chitsujo to be court-martialed, or you will be executed by my blade. Usopp's eyes widened at this. He needed to avoid the second punishment at all costs. If Byakuya executed him, Luffy would kill Byakuya, regardless of the man's reasons. They could not afford to have that sort of discord in the army, and Luffy killing a division commander would create nearly irreparable discord. He nodded. I understand, Commander, Usopp said. Thank you for being undeservedly fair to me. Byakuya nodded. Just don't make me regret it, Usopp. Location of the 1st Division. Commander Kyoraku. A wizard ran up to Shunsui Kyoraku. Considering the direction we are heading in, I feel like I should tell you where we are going. We are approaching the Worthwood Sea. The 1st DV. Scion had been marching for a long time now. Probably an entire day in fact. They were just now approaching a rather notable location. That location was the infamous Worthwood Sea. I see, Shunsui said, I take it this is a notable place. This is the site of the battle with the Dark Guild, the Oracion Cease. The wizard said, Ah, a Dark Guild, huh. Was this particular Dark Guild powerful? They were MPOSED of 6 extremely powerful members who made up a third of the Baram Alliance. What was this battle all about? Surely a Dark Guild wouldn't go out in the open like that, regardless of how powerful they are. Shunsui pointed out. The wizard looked sheepish. I don't know, sir. He admitted. It was a battle over an extremely ancient and dark form of magic. A muscle-bound man with white hair entered the conversation. Your name, soldier? Shunsui asked. Elfman Strauss, Commander Kyoraku. Elfman introduced himself. The Oracion Cease wanted to get their hands on a magic weapon known as Nirvana. How do you know this? Shunsui inquired curiously. 4 members of my guild were sent to fight them with others from other guilds. Elfman explained. I don't know all the details, but from what Gray told me, Nirvana was destroyed and needs to stay that way. Shunsui nodded. He did not know what Nirvana was, but he certainly did not want to find out. Well, he said, even if Nirvana wasn't destroyed, we still have orders to move through the forests and drive the enemy back. Shunsui looked over his shoulder and issued a command to the 1st Division. Continue marching, he ordered. We are entering the Worthwood Sea. It is highly probable that we will encounter the enemy, stay on guard. In one day, the 1st Division will be inside of the Worthwood Sea. When that day comes, a new battle will begin. The 1st Division chose to make camp just outside of the Worthwood Sea to rest for the night before what they assumed to be would be a conflict with the enemy. After setting up camp, the 1st Division lit some small fires to keep everyone warm, but not draw the attention of the enemy. That night, gathered around the campfire, the 1st Division spent dinner bonding with one another over stories and thoughts on the war. Gildarts Clive took a swig of sake as he looked across at the crowd that had chosen to sit around with him. Among the group was Elfman Strauss of Fairy Tale, Ichigo Kurosaki, Yasutora Sato aka Chad, Rorino Azoro of the Straw Hat Pirates, and Sakura Haruno of the Hidden Leaf. This place, Gildarts said solemnly, all of the places we've been to, these are all places I've been to during my travels. All of those places used to be so full of life. Gildarts continued, but not anymore. Gildarts shook his head. God, what possesses people to go to war sometimes? It's really unmanly. Elfman nodded in agreement. Zoro reached out for the sake bottle and took it from Fairy Tale's Ace Wizard. Hard to say, Zoro said, people go to war for so many different reasons. Sometimes it's for glory, sometimes it's for power, sometimes it's for honor. More often than not, it's for a selfish reason. Considering what we've seen so far, I can agree with that, said Ichigo. Sakura nodded in agreement at this. Entire farmlands have been stripped of their supplies, small villages have been razed, God only knows what's happened to the people who lived there. But isn't that why we're fighting? Chad asked rhetorically, so people do not have to keep going through that kind of pain. Gildarts smiled at this. Yeah, he said, answering the rhetorical question, you are absolutely right, Chad. Zoro offered the sake to the next man. Elfman took it. No need to worry, Elfman said, taking a huge drink befitting his enormous frame, we've got a bunch of real men here. We'll drive those coalition bastards back to where they came from. Hey, I'll drink to that. Thanks for the confidence booster, Elfman, said Gildarts, holding out his hand for the sake. Gildarts took the sake and took another swig, relish. The taste of alcohol sliding down his throat. Things may be bad at the moment, but I like to think that the night is darkest before the dawn. And once the dawn comes, the light of the fairy will break through the darkness. That was very poetic, Gildarts. Sakura complimented. Gildarts smiled. Thanks, he replied. Meanwhile, a second group was seated around another fire. Former Espada Nalil II Odelschwenk, who had been restored to her adult form for the war, the Hidden Leafs Choji and Choza Akamichi, Sanji and Brook of the Straw Hats, and Bacchus Grow of Quattro Cerberus. The entire group W, as going gaga over Sanji's amazing cooking, especially the two Akamichis. You weren't kidding, Sanji, your cooking is phenomenal, said Choji. Sanji smirked proudly. This is nothing, you should see me with gourmet. Once we've got some actual downtime I'll make some for you. Bring some girls though, I especially love cooking for the ladies. Sanji gave Nalil a perverted grin. While we're on the subject, I'll gladly treat you to a full gourmet meal, Nalil my love. Nalil smiled brightly. That would be nice. Choza's sweat dropped at this. The Akamichi clan head was quite familiar with perverts. He had lived in the same village as a man who was a self-proclaimed super pervert. In fact, that got Choza wondering. Who was more of a pervert? Master Jiraiya, or this incredibly skilled cook named Sanji? Choji, however, was oblivious to this. Could you treat me to a full gourmet meal as well, Sanji? Yeah, sure. Sanji quickly brushed Choji off as he continued to stare at Nalil's large breasts. Back, Hus greedily scarfed down the food in front of him. This tastes wild, Sanji, he complimented. Sanji ignored Bacchus as he began to drift off into his own little world that can basically be summed up as a miniature version of him being squeezed into Nalil's cleavage. Brook also started to stare at Nalil. Excuse me, Miss Nalil, but I have a favor to ask of you. Nalil looked at the skeleton. Sure, what is it? She inquired. May I see your panties? Choza paled at this. Not even Jiraiya was that open with his perversity. Bacchus and Choji nearly choked on the food they were shoveling into their mouths. Nalil looked at Brook. She then surprised everyone when she smiled and said, "Okay." Blood shot out of Sanji and Brooke's nose as Nalil lifted up her skirt. Bacchus and Choji spat out the food they were eating. And Choza went even paler. He quickly turned away, not trusting himself. "I'm a married man," he said to himself. "I'm a married man. I'm a married man." Sanji and Brooke grinned perver. Deadly as their blood seeped out onto the ground. "Green," Sanji said quietly, "they're the color green. They match her hair." Nalil giggled, not realizing the problem with what she had just done. Meanwhile, Shunsui Kyoraku laughed at the antics in Nalil's group. He looked at his drinking partners, Jinbei, the Knight of the Sea, and Jinbei's close friend, 100th Degree Hack. If only it were that easy to defeat the enemy. Shunsui cackled. "I would just send out all the ladies in their underwear." Jinbei shook his head. "That's a true test of will right there," he muttered. Hack nodded in agreement. "Oh, nay, that black leg and the skeleton failed." Hack then looked at the regimental commander of the Allied forces. "Commander," he said, "shouldn't you be concerning yourself with tomorrow's strategy?" Shunsui shook his head at this. "There's not much we can prepare for," he replied. "We're going into a deep, large forest where we have no idea what we'll find. Surely there's something we can do to prepare," Hack said, grasping for straws. Jinbei sighed. "He's right, Hack," Jinbei said. "There is nothing we can do." Shunsui nodded at this. "All we can do," he said, "is spread out and comb that entire forest. We can't leave a single stone unturned. If we leave even 1 square mile untouched, that's a square mile the enemy could use to ambush us." Jinbei nodded in agreement at this. "Our numbers in the initial deployment in the 1st Division number in 50. Oh, I have no doubt that we can search the entire forest." "Just to be safe though," Shunsui interjected, "I want teams of 5. "What should we do if we encounter the enemy though?" Jinbei inquired. "The obvious answer is to fight," Shunsui said. "The sounds of battle should draw nearby squads. However," Shunsui continued, "just in case I want at least 1 member to send OFF and attack in the sky for everyone else to see. A flare of sorts. How does that help us though?" Hack asked. "It would be wasteful to bring the entire division to said spot. I mean, most numbers would outnumber a squad of 5. The main reason is because most armies stay rather close to each other. It's unsafe to break off too far from the main body. If you encounter 1, or even 30 enemies, the rest of the army is not too far off." Shunsui explained. That made sense to Hack, so he simply nodded and remained quiet. "Do you think we'll actually end up facing an enemy?" Jinbei asked, after a moment of silence. Shunsui sighed at this. "I don't know," he admitted, "but from what I've seen already this is an enemy that fights as though it's got nothing to lose. That means we need to expect an attack from them at any time." Jinbei nodded. "I suppose you are right," he said, "it never hurts to be prepared." Shunsui grunted and took a sip of the sake in front of him. "All we can do is remain on guard, I'm thinking of setting up a night watch now that we're this close to enemy territory." Jinbei did not hesitate. "I'll take first watch." Shunsui raised an eyebrow at this. "You're one of our main fighters, Jinbei," Shunsui told him. While Shunsui was not an expert on the power of his new comrades, he could tell from the sparring the 1st Division members participated in when they had downtime that Jinbei was one of the stronger members of the 1st Division. Jinbei nodded at this, but he did not relent. "That may be the case, Commander Kyoraku, but I have a lot of energy. Besides, I must keep my skills sharp." Jinbei's mood darkened a bit more. "Also," he continued, "if an enemy does show up, they'll have to deal with me first." Shunsui could not argue with Jinbei's logic, so he relented. "Fine," he said, "you'll take 5. RST watch in the area closest to the forest. See if you can find 7 other volunteers to stand watch in the other 7 directions. I'll send a new group to relieve all 8 of you in 4 hours." "Understood, Commander Kyoraku." The next morning, everyone in the 1st Division woke to people who ended the night on watch shouting for everyone to awaken. Ichigo groaned as his eyes fluttered open. He turned to the green-haired man that had fallen asleep nearby, who was still sleeping. "Hey, Zoro, wake up man." Zoro yawned loudly as he dozed awake. "Morning already?" he inquired. Ichigo nodded. He then looked at Sakura. who was already going through her medical supplies. He then remembered that she had done the same thing yesterday. You know, he said, I'm pretty sure your supplies are in the same place they were yesterday. Sakura frowned at him. My master taught me that preparation is key as a medic. These supplies may just save your life on the battlefield, Ichigo. Ichigo held his hands up. Sorry, he said, I just couldn't help but notice. Sakura sighed. Ichigo, there is a medic in my world, she began. She is the greatest there is, and probably ever will be, in her particular line of work. But even the greatest have their bad days. Sadly, her bad day came when her fiancé was fatally injured. In spite of her best efforts, she failed to save him. Ichigo immediately looked down at this. I'm sorry, he said, a bit more genuine and pained this time. Sakura nodded. That's why I always make sure my supplies are with me, so I don't go through what she went through. So, who is this woman? Ichigo inquired. Sakura looked at him. My master, Lady Tsunade. The same woman that healed your injuries back in Lord Chitsujo's palace. Ichigo's eyes widened at this. I understand, he said, who knows? You might just save my life with those supplies. Sakura smiled lightly. It's what I do, she said softly. What the First Division did not know, however, was that there was an uninvited guest in the area watching the preparations. He frowned as he ducked his head back underground. Inside the Worthwood Sea. Ah, Diamante, I couldn't have picked a better man to hold the Worthwood CW. I'm working on Lord Kanton's little project in this world, said an astral projection of a pale-skinned man with long dark hair and two slitted yellow eyes. Oh Orochimaru, you really are too kind. I can't be the best man for the job. Diamante, the occupant of the diamond seat in the Don Quixote family and the elite officer of the Diamante army in the Don Quixote pirates. Orochimaru the Snake-san, frowned slightly at Diamante's refusal of his praise. Oh but no, he said, you truly are the best man for the job. Oh of course I'm not, there are obviously better men than me. Diamante said as several elite members of this particular army of the coalition sweat dropped at his actions. Well, I suppose you are right. Orochimaru's frown deepened. Perhaps you aren't. Well, when you put it like that you are right. Diamante interrupted. Okay, I am the best man to lead this army in holding the Worthwood Sea. A blonde-haired, well-endowed woman in a white military uniform looked at a little girl dress. Said in a similar manner with a lollipop in her mouth. After that projection of Orochimaru goes off, I'm going to electrocute him, just so we don't have to listen to that crap come out of his mouth. They got me back when they asked me who did it, right? She asked. The girl frowned. No, she said, taking the lollipop out of her mouth. Killing the commanding officer of our army will not end well for any of us, Candy. Sternritter T. Candace Catnip, frowned. Besides, the girl continued, if he's strong enough to be ranked higher than us, then you know what that means. Candace glared at her. You saying what I think you're saying, Lil? She asked angrily. You better not be, or might just turn my attacks on you. Sternritter G. Lilito Lampard, sighed as she went back to her lollipop. Burnt flesh doesn't taste very good, Candy. She said. Thanks, but no thanks. Candace wanted to throw a tantrum at this. But he's so freaking annoying. She shouted. Candace frowned at 4 other men. And not just him, she continued. But those 4 nutcases that hang with him. I mean, look at them. Lilito did so. One was wearing short shorts and had stilettos on, one was incredibly fat, one was incredibly old, and the one dressed like a baby was nowhere to be seen. That's not very nice, Candy. Lilito said, just to annoy her. I'm sure they are nice people once you get to know them. This got the desired effect. Are you kidding me right now, Lil? Getting within 10 feet of them would get their crazy all over me. Candace nearly screamed in exasperation. God, even Minnie is a better conversationalist than you, and that's saying a lot. Ah, but that's the thing, Minnie's not here, so you're stuck with me. Remember, Minnie's too busy watching Gigi and making sure she doesn't turn any of the soldiers here into. I know, Candace said before shivering. God, what she does honestly gives me the creeps sometimes. The astral projection of Orochimaru faded. Sure you don't want to at least take a bite out of him? Candace asked. Last chance, Lil. Lilito shook her head. I'll fill my belly with whatever enemies we come across. As soon as Diamante turned around and prepared to speak to his soldiers, someone came out of the ground. Candace almost jumped back in surprise, but Lilito and Diamante already knew he it was. Glad to see you have returned to us safely, Senor. Diamante said fondly. Did you bring us any good information? Officer Senor Pink, of the Don Quixote pirates fully emerged from the ground. We've got an entire division coming at us very soon, Diamante said Senor Pink. Diamante clapped his hands together. Excellent. Then let us go and destroy them, he said, smiling viciously. Diamante turned to two nearby grunts of the Don Quixote pirates. Tell those 3 swordsmen to get ready, he ordered one of them. The grunt nodded and ran off. Diamante then addressed the other grunt. Go wake up Midnight, he told him. His presence is needed to turn this battle in our favor. The grunt was visibly SWE, aiding at the thought of waking up that particular person, but obediently nodded. Diamante's vicious grin remained as he continued the preparations for his attack on the 1st Division. With the 1st Division, when the 1st Division entered the Worthwood Sea, they immediately split into groups of 5, just as Shunsui had planned. One of the 5 groups consisted of Squad 11's Akaku Madarame and Yumachika Yasugawa, Cavendish the Pirate Prince, Karui from the Hidden Cloud Village, and Mermaid Heels Kagura Mikazuki. Akaku almost wished that the enemy would come, considering that it was either fight an enemy or listen to Yumachika and Cavendish argue over who was more beautiful a person. Look at these feathers, Yumachika shouted. These are a true fashion statement, you sparkling freak show. Not that dumb hat of yours. How dare you? Cavendish shouted back. I am the Pirate Prince, the most beautiful man on the Grand Line. I'm a celebrity, a shining example amongst male pirates everywhere. You are nothing more than an attention-grabbing officer. At least my looks have gained me the popularity of a captain. This ponytail is a work of art. Yumachika showed off his ponytail. Your IR is nothing more than generic long blonde hair. Are you saying your hair isn't generic? Cavendish said incredulously. It's a freaking ponytail for crying out loud. Oh shut up ladies. Karui finally had enough. You're both beautiful so freaking zip it. Thank you, Akaku thought in relief, sheathing Hozukimaru. How dare you speak to me like that you ugly brute of a woman? Yumachika glared at Karui. In fact, how dare you speak to me at all? Never mind, here we go again. Akaku thought. Ugly brute. Karui asked angrily. You narcissistic bastard, I'll have you know that men are lining up just to have a chance to look at me. That of course was a full-faced lie and Karui knew it. The woman that men were lining up just to look at in the hidden cloud was actually her teammate, Samui, but those 2 prissy pricks did not need to know that. Unfortunately, they clearly did not believe it. In fact, they were giggling at her because they could tell it was a lie. All Karui could do was turn red as the 2 flamboyant men broke out into laughter. Meanwhile, Kagura noticed Akaku drawing Hozukimaru. She then nudged him on the shoulder. At least try to tune them out, Kagura said sternly. It works for me at least. You try living with the one with the feathers for over half a century. Akaku lamented. Meanwhile, 3 figures in the trees looked out at the approaching allied forces. One had shoulder-length white hair with a fanged grin. As excited as I am for this, taking out that many people is a tall order, he said. A large man with orange hair and a fanged mouth like his teammate looked at him. Don't get cocky, Mangetsu, he admonished. Didn't you hear about the debacle at the Aster Mountains? We can't afford for this operation to go wrong. The third man was a short fellow with a beard and dark hair in a bandana. He also had fangs for teeth like his teammates. Mangetsu does have a point though. Taking out this amount of enemies is rather exciting. The third man licked his lips. I can't wait to unleash my helmet splitter on them. Those fools in the allied forces will soon learn that there's no defense that can stop it. Mangetsu Hazuka nodded and started some hand signs. Spread out, he told them. Remember what Commander Diamante said, we can't get them all but we need to at least separate them into thirds. The 2 other swordsmen nodded and moved through the trees. Once all 3 men were in place, they all quickly finished their respective hand signs. Ninja art. Hidden mist jutsu. They all said in unison. Back with the 1st Division. Akaku noticed it first. A sudden mist started to appear out of nowhere. Then it got thicker with each passing moment. Karui gasped when she realized what was happening. Get into a tight formation, she ordered. It's an ambush. 4 pairs of eyes went wide in shock. What kind of ambush is this? Yumachika asked in surprise. It's called the Hidden Mist Jutsu. It's a special ninjutsu developed by the Hidden Mist Village solely for assassination. Karui explained. Akaku scowled at this. Bastards are too cowardly to face us head-on. All's fair in war, third seat matter aim. Kagura reminded him. Let's save the chat on ideals for later, Cavendish interjected. The mist is getting thicker. Cavendish barely managed to make out Karui. Karui, is there anything else you can tell us? Well, users of the Hidden Mist Jutsu are often experts in a form of assassination known as silent killing. Karui explained. It's a technique where the assassin will kill you without a single sound being uttered, from both the killer and the killed. Basically, Hidden Mist Jutsu makes the silent killing technique easier. Silent killing, huh? Karui heard Yumachika speak up. I get it, they're trying to pick us off one by one. Karui nodded. That's why we need to keep a tight perimeter. Even if we can't see them, if we stay close together, we should be safe. All we have to do, Karui continued, is keep our blades raised and our minds sharp. Meanwhile, Shunsu, Ikiraku looked at the thick mist outside of its range and assessed the situation. He turned to a nearby Hyuga. Can you tell me what's happening in there? He asked. The Hyuga, a man named Yoshio, nodded. Byakugan. The man's veins pulsed as he activated his visual jutsu. Yoshio took a quick look around the mist. Our men inside are mostly in disarray. Yoshio said grimly. They're either looking around frantically, or trying to find a way out. Luckily, there are a few that have gotten into a circular formation. That's a good thing, it allows you to cover all bases in an otherwise invisible area. Yoshio's eyes widened when he noticed something else. Wait a minute, he said, we have men down. I see nothing from them, they're dead. Shunsui narrowed his eyes at this. Looks like the battle has begun. Shunsui looked at Yoshio. Gather up your clansmen and enter the mist. You guys are the only people capable of seeing perfectly in that situation. Yoshio nodded. Yes, Commander. As Yoshio sped off, Shunsui took another look at the mist. Stay safe, all of you, he murmured. The ground then started to tremble on Shunsui's side. Shunsui's raised an eyebrow at this. Now what? He wondered out loud. The ground then started to crack. The regimental commander of the Allied forces leapt out of the way just as a vine shot out of the ground. Shunsui then heard several screams. He looked behind to see vines coming out of the ground everywhere. Now I see, he thought, they're going for a more indirect approach. First they separate us, then they pick us off with unorthodox tactics like these. Shunsui drive, one of his blades and slashed a vine that came close to grabbing him. This can't be natural, Shunsui quickly realized, someone is controlling these vines. Shunsui addressed as many people as he could within earshot. Spread the word, he shouted. Find who's controlling these vines. Meanwhile, on the other side of the mist, Ichigo Kurosaki, Sakura Haruno, Elfman Strauss, and Black-Leg Sanji stared at the giant fog. Ichigo looked ready to charge in, but Sakura stopped him. What are you doing, Sakura? Ichigo inquired angrily. We have to help them. How? Sakura replied. Ichigo, do you even realize what that is? Yeah, a giant fog. Not just any fog, it's the Hidden Mist Jutsu, it's a form of ninjutsu used for assassination. Sakura explained. Unless you have some sort of technique that can help you see through the mist, there is nothing you can do for the others. Hearing that he could not do anything upset Ichigo greatly. However, considering that this was from Sakura's world, he had no choice but to take her word for it. Damn, he cursed. What do we do then? Unfortunately, there is nothing we can do. Sakura said, only someone who possesses the Sharingan or the Byakugan can see through the mist. Damn, Ichigo cursed again. Sanji lit a cigarette. If there's really nothing we can do at the moment, then I think we've got no choice but to continue moving forward unless given orders to do otherwise. What? This upset Ichigo even more. We're just going to leave the others. You heard Sakura. Ichigo, there is nothing we can do. Sanji reminded him. As the three conversed, Elfman started looking ing around frantically when he realized something, or rather someone, was missing. "Hey guys. What is it, Elfman?" Sanji asked. "Where's Zoro?" The three looked at the spot where Zoro was supposed to be. When they had started marching as a group, he had chosen to be at Elfman's side. All three face faulted when they realized what had happened. "That idiot!" They all screamed in unison. Meanwhile, Roronoa Zoro, oblivious as ever, had completely failed to notice the mist appearing and had continued marching, only to end up getting lost. Of course, being quite oblivious, he did not even notice he was lost. He did, however, notice that he was alone. The pirate hunter looked around in confusion. "Where is everyone?" Zoro wondered. Did they all get lost? Back with Ichigo's group, the trio finally overcame their shock. "That stupid moss head," Sanji screamed. "How is his sense of direction that bad?" "Enemies ahead," a voice shouted. "Let's worry about Zoro later," Sakura said to her group. The three men nodded in agreement. The quartet then ran towards the sound of the voice to confront the enemies. Much to their surprise, however, there were only 4 enemies. A young man with long dark hair and black eyeliner. A well-endowed girl with purple hair and a white military uniform. A flamboyant-looking young man with stilettos and short shorts, and an old man with a belt buckle that was the letter G. "It's only 4. Another soldier shouted. "Destroy them." The man with long dark hair smirked and turned to the purple-haired girl. "Do it, Meninas," he told her. Sternritter P. Meninas McCollin nodded and slammed her hand on the ground. A shadowy portal then appeared. "Advance," she commanded. "Soldat." Ichigo's eyes widened as several Wandenreich soldiers poured out of the portal. "Damn," he cursed, "they move in a small group so we wouldn't see them. Then once they confronted us, they transported reinforcements." "It can't be helped," said Elfman, "let's show them what real men can do." Back with Zoro, the RST mate of the Straw Hats noticed several men coming into view. They were all grunts in the Don Quixote pirates. Zoro smirked at this. Finally, he said, "Some action." Zoro drew his Sadai Kitetsu, and with that, the pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro leapt into battle. As the Battle of Worthwood Sea began, another figure was running through the woods. However, he was not participating in any battles. No, this man was lost. Kenpachi Zaraki yelled in frustration as he tore through the woods. "Where are you taking me at this rate, Yakiru?" Kenpachi asked his adopted daughter. Yakiru Kusajishi smiled and giggled. "It's a shortcut," she said. "I'm taking you to the fights with a shortcut. I'm starting to think we should have just stayed with the others when that mist appeared out of nowhere." Kenpachi frowned. "Ah, but that's no fun, you know that." Yakiru chided. "Everyone knows it's more fun to just charge in. You always say that, Kenny." Kenpachi sighed. "Yeah, I guess you're right. Are you sure this is a shortcut?" "Of course I'm sure. I have the greatest sense of direction in the universe after all." Yakiru reminded him. "Now keep going," Yakiru ordered. "We're almost done with the shortcut. We'll be at the enemy base in no time. You'll find plenty of strong people to play with there." Kenpachi's grin returned. "Yeah, you're right. It's time I see just how strong these otherworld folks really are." "Yay, go Kenny," Yakiru cheered. In the hidden mist jutsu, Akaku Madarame growled in frustration as he remained in formation with his teammates. The only thing he could see in front of him was the heavy fog that was the hidden mist jutsu. However, to Akaku's left and right were Yumachika Yasugawa and Kagura Mikazuki respectively. Knowing that those two, especially Yumachika, were next to him, gave him comfort. In spite of being relaxed, overall, he was still growing impatient. "Are we really just gonna stand here like this?" Akaku asked. "We're not going to get anything done if we stay in this position. We don't have much of a choice." "Akaku," Yumachika reminded him, "if we go further into the mist alone, we'll die. And dying like this is no way for a member of Squad 11 to go out, it's such an ugly death." "Yeah, I guess you're right. But still." "But nothing," Kagura interjected, "survival is everything at the moment. We can't leave anything to chance." Cavendish and Karui remained silent and focused as the other three conversed. "Women are so troublesome when they're right," Akaku mused. Kagura scowled at this and went back to guarding her position. "Okay," she thought, "remember what Master Reina taught. In battle, when you are handicapped, make up for that handicap. I cannot rely on my eyes, so I must rely on my other senses. Kagura took a deep breath. Let go, she continued, focus on tree. Ing to pick out energy signatures from the enemy. They may not always have magic energy, but luckily chakra and spirit energy are rather similar. At that moment, Kagura felt a chakra signature speeding towards her. Her eyes widened at this. Kagura quickly raised archenemy and blocked an attack from a blade of blue chakra. Kagura gasped at how long the attack was. Akaku and Karui looked at Kagura and what she had just done. What the hell is that? Akaku asked. It's a jutsu, Karui muttered. The five then heard someone chuckle darkly. The chakra blade then retracted itself. Interesting, to think, that my Haramakare would be blocked by an undrawn sword. I hope word of that never gets to the others. Mangetsu Hazuka walked into view. He took a look at Haramakare. This replica is just as effective as the real thing. I'm gonna have to thank Lord Kanton's boys in the forgery for making this. Mangetsu mused. Mangetsu smirked at Kagura. That's a rather unusual sword style you've got there. Never once have I heard of fighting with an undrawn blade. It's a shame I have to kill someone like you. After all, it's like I said before, I can't let word get out that a sheathed blade stopped Haramakare. I would never hear the end of it. Especially from Amayuri. That being said, Mangetsu continued, I will never forget the clearly talented woman I met during this war. The one who could use an WN sword as effectively as a drawn sword. Karui's eyes widened at the man before her. It's the second coming of the demon. She said. Second coming of the demon. Kagura repeated. His name is Mangetsu Hazuka. He is a former member of the Hidden Mist Village's most famous and most powerful team, the 7 Ninja Swordsmen of the Mist. Karui explained. What's more, Karui continued, Mangetsu, generation. In particular is hailed as the strongest generation of swordsmen ever known. Mangetsu laughed at this. Well, it appears my reputation precedes me. He noted. Mangetsu returned to a battle stance. Now then, shall we get started? With that, Mangetsu disappeared into the mist. Damn coward won't fight us head on. Akaku growled angrily. Hey now, calling me a coward is quite uncalled for. Mangetsu. Voice was heard in the mist. After all, fighting from the shadows is part of the shinobi way, wouldn't you agree, Cloud Kunoichi? All of you stay on guard. Karui ordered. He has a long range thanks to the Haramakare. You know, this situation reminds me of what my old teammate, Zabuza, used to say. Mangetsu mused. He would always go on and on about the many places you could strike in order to kill a man. The only question is, which area should I strike? The head, the heart, or one of the other many spots Zabuza would always refer to. This guy's toying with us. Akaku realized. He's got every right to. He's the one with the advantage at the moment. Yumachika reminded his closest friend. The five heard Mangetsu laughed. I like you, Featherface. He said. I really do. You're not afraid to admit you're in deep trouble and that takes balls. Yumachika frowned deeply at this. Featherface. Yumachika repeated. Okay, now I really want to kill this guy. Mangetsu gleefully watched them try to prepare for his next strike. The hidden mist jutsu. Greatest weapon is actually what many would not expect, Mangetsu thought. Its greatest weapon is fear. The fear that comes from the thought of an enemy coming out of nowhere at any time. The terror I can feel emulating from my enemies is truly exhilarating. He continued. Eventually, that fear consumes them, and leaves them an easy target for a fatal blow. Mangetsu suddenly cried out in pain. He looked down to see a hand coming through his chest. Luckily it was not a fatal injury due to the Hazuka clan's unique body structure. Mangetsu was practically made entirely of water. Yoshio Hyuga gasped in surprise when he realized what had happened when he had struck Mangetsu with his gentle fist. Mangetsu looked over his shoulder and smirked. Ow! He said mockingly. Mangetsu spun around and swung Haramakare at Yoshio, who leapt over him and landed in between the mist swordsman and the team of 5. Yoshio quickly ran over to the team of 5. It's all right, I'm a friendly. He shouted to them. Yoshio ran up to Akaku and the others. What the hell? Akaku said upon meeting him. I thought going into the mist alone was dangerous. It normally is, Yoshio admitted. But I possess the Byakugan. I can see right through this mist. Kagura was surprised by this. She immediately acted on this newfound information. Can you give us Mangetsu's location? Yoshio nodded and turned around. He then gasped when he saw that Mangetsu had already left the spot he was in before. Luckily, his Byakugan allowed him to do a quick scan of the area. He quickly spotted where Mangetsu was going to attack from next. Fifth seat Yasugawa, he called out. He's coming straight for you. Yumachika narrowed his eyes at this. Bloom, Fuji Kujaku, he called. Yumachika's Zanpa, Kudo transformed into a sickle that split into 4 blades at the top. He did this just in time to block Mangetsu attack. Mangetsu narrowed his eyes at this. This isn't fun anymore, Mangetsu deadpanned. As much as I love the extra challenge, seeing you 5 squirm, trying to figure out where I was gonna hit you from was much more entertaining. Now you've got this damn Hyuga to be your eyes. Yumachika grinned slightly at this. Complain to someone who cares, you fang freak. He insulted. I'm more interested in cutting you down at the moment. Yumachika knocked Hiramakare out of the way and swung Fuji Kujaku at Mangetsu head. Yumachika watched as Mangetsu head exploded into water, and then quickly reformed. Nice try, Mangetsu said, but it's clear you don't know jack about clan techniques in the ninja world. That's okay, I understand. After all, you're not from that world. Extend. Hozukimaru. Akaku had leapt into action and had cut into Mangetsu shoulder with his shikai. His shoulder quickly reformed like his head had done earlier. Cavendish then appeared behind Mangetsu. Beautiful sword. Blue bird. Cavendish shouted, stabbing forward with great force. Mangetsu felt the blade go through his body. He scowled at the trio's futile attempts to kill him. He then transformed himself into a puddle and left the group. Cavendish, Akaku, get back in formation. Karut ordered. Akaku and Cavendish did as they were told. Hyuga, Kagura addressed Yoshio, can you give us Mangetsu's location again? Yoshio nodded and scanned for Mangetsu location. He quickly found the second coming of the demon. But he also found something else. There are 3 of him now, Yoshio said. Karui gritted her teeth at this. He's using water clones. Like I said, this isn't fun anymore. Mangetsu reminded his prospective victims. I've taken out several groups already with little to no trouble, and then you guys come along and make things difficult for me. The Mangetsu in the middle then did some hand signs. That being the case, I'm going to try something a bit different. Yoshio's eyes widened. Everyone brace for impact. He shouted. Water style. Raging river. Water appeared out of nowhere in front of Anjutsu and rushed towards the group of 6. The water struck them all at once, sending them all away to different places. Mangetsu smirked at this. One of the first rules of hunting is to separate the herd, then pick them off. You're taking too long, Mangetsu, said a familiar voice. Mangetsu frowned as one of his comrades walked into view. What the hell are you doing here, Fubuki? Shouldn't you be focusing on killing off the suckers in this mist? I could ask you the same question. Fubuki Suikazan replied. What's taking you so long with this group? You didn't have much trouble with the others. Mangetsu shrugged. Well, they've proven themselves to be a bit more difficult than the others. Fubuki scoffed at this. You really don't live up to your potential sometimes, you know that. Mangetsu frowned. What, you want to start something, Fubuki? Fubuki shook his head. Just get back to doing your job. We were assigned to completely annihilate this portion of the first division, not mess with them. Fubuki turned away from his comrade and left before Mangetsu could say another word. Mangetsu scowled. Fat bastard, always got to try to bring me down out of jealousy. He muttered to himself. Mangetsu addressed his 2 clones. Track them down and get rid of them. He ordered. With Kagura Mikazuki got to her feet and looked around. Damn, she muttered, that bastard separated us. Well, it's not like I had a choice. You guys weren't exactly making things easy for me. Came Mangetsu. Voice. Kagura looked around. If I concentrate, I can sense you, you know. Hey, well, who says I'm going to give you a chance to concentrate? I know you won't, Kagura admitted, so I'm going to have to improvise. Kagura raised archenemy. Slashing form. Kagura started swinging her blade at extremely high speeds, much to Mangetsu confusion. What the hell is that supposed to do? He wondered. Mangetsu moved to the side and unleashed Haramakare in its longsword form. He swung it at the back of Kagura's neck. Kagura looked off to the side. Mangetsu. Eyes widened when he realized that Kagura had seen him. Kagura pivoted to the side and blocked Haramakare. What? Mangetsu was shocked. I see you. Kagura deadpanned. That's not possible. Unless. Mangetsu. Eyes widened when he realized what had happened. That technique you used earlier. Kagura nodded. The force from my slashing blew away the mist around me. She explained. I now have a wider range of visibility. Mangetsu was actually impressed. Not bad, he admitted. You came up with an effective counter to my hidden mist jutsu on the spot. Not only that, but you've effectively neutralized my silent killing. Mangetsu raised Haramakare. Oh well, I kinda wanted to get a feel for that sword style of yours anyway. With that, Mangetsu charged Kagura. The undrawn longsword clashed with the famed twin sword of the hidden mist village. Their wielders stared down one another. Kagura with a calm and serious look, and Mangetsu with an excited grin. With Yumachika and Cavendish, Yumachika Yasugawa yelled in anger over his ruined hair. When Mangetsu had struck him and his group with that water-style ninjutsu, Yumachika's hair had been ruined by the attack. While Yumachika lamented the destruction of his hair, Cavendish was on his hands and knees crying about the destruction of his hair. That fanged bastard, Yumachika screamed, not caring technically he was in enemy territory. I'm going to kill him. My hair, Cavendish sobbed, my beautiful hair. It's ruined. Cavendish. Sadness then turned to anger. That monster, he shouted. He really is a demon. I'll kill him for this unforgivable sin. Yumachika heard this and turned his anger on Cavendish. Get in line, Blondie. Yumachika shouted. I'm going to kill him first. The one who gets to kill him is the one who was the victim of a worse crime. Cavendish replied. Considering that my hair is perfect and also better than yours, I have it worse than you. Therefore, I will kill him. What? Yumachika glared comically at Cavendish. Your hair is better. How dare you look me in the eye and tell me that your hair is better than my beautiful jet black hair? I dare because it's true, Yasugawa. Cavendish comically glared back. Blonde she-male, human peacock. As the two traded barbs, one of Mangetsu, water clone's sweat dropped at the sight. Do I really need to get involved in this? Mangetsu thought. I can just stand here and let these two self-destruct. There's only one way to settle this. Yumachika shouted. We'll find him. The first one who finds him gets to kill him. And the one who kills him is the most beautiful. That logic makes no sense. Mangetsu. Clone thought. Alright, I'm game. Let's go track down that bastard. Cavendish shouted. The water clone sighed. Well, what do you know? They put aside their differences by finding a common enemy. What a damn cliché, he thought. The water clone turned into a puddle and moved across the ground. When he reached Yumachika and Cavendish he reformed into his true form. Albeit with larger hands meant to suffocate both of them. What the water clone did not count on was that Yumachika and Cavendish were on heightened alert due to their anger at Mangetsu. The minute the water clone came into view, Yumachika and Cavendish turned the full force of their anger on him. Die! They screamed in unison. The water clone, eyes widened as Fujikujaku and Durandal cut through his body, destroying him instantly. Yumachika and Cavendish immediately realized that the Mangetsu they had killed was not the real Mangetsu. Damn him! Yumachika shouted. Where the hell is he? It's obvious that we must go into the mist and find him. Cavendish told his newfound rival. Let us hunt down this fiend. With Akaku Madarame twirled Hozukimaru, block. Ing a water-style jutsu from the second water clone. The third seat of Squad 11 frowned at the fact that Mangetsu had not attacked him with that strange sword, Haramakare. It was clear that this Mangetsu was not the real Mangetsu. If that is indeed the case, Akaku thought, I find myself wondering just how durable this clone actually is. The water clone did some hand signs under the cover of the mist. Water style. Water gun jutsu. The water clone fired a ball of water at extremely high speeds. Akaku's combat instincts, combined with the fact that he had long gauged the water clone's location Rom spending time sensing for the presence of friend and foe alike, allowed him to disperse the ball with another swing from Hozukimaru. The water clone frowned at this. He's blocking my attacks with little to no effort. Damn, I guess using ninjutsu to take him out isn't going to work. The water clone sighed at this. Getting close to him is going to be dangerous though. He's clearly a short-ranged fighter. The water clone melted down into a puddle. Let's do this cautiously then. He's shown quite a bit of skill gauging my presence already. Let's see how good he really is. The water clone moved across the ground at high speed. Akaku immediately sensed where the water clone was coming from and stabbed the ground where the puddle was. However, the water clone dodged the stab at high speeds and reformed behind the Squad 11 third seat. The water clone's hand expanded and grabbed Akaku, enveloping his entire head, restricting his breathing. Akaku was choking, gasping for air. However, he thought quickly and made his move. Split. He frantically commanded his Shikai. Hozukimaru split apart into 3 pieces. Akaku whipped Hozukimaru behind his head and impaled the water clone in the head, destroying him instantly. Akaku fell to his knees and gasped for air. Damn, he choked. That was a dirty trick that bastard pulled. Akaku managed to get to his feet. I think that Hyuga mentioned there were 2 others besides this one I had just destroyed. Akaku looked around. I can only hope that the others managed to have just as much luck with the others as I did. Meanwhile, in another part of the mist, Miliana of Mermaid Heel frowned deeply as she kept her attention in front of her. I really don't like the idea of standing around, she admitted. Our friends are out there, and they could be hurt, or worse. I don't like to think that Kagura is hurt, Miliana thought, especially considering how powerful she is. But still, look, I already told you. Kitsuchi of the Hidden Rock Village turned to her. There's nothing we can do. Unless you have some sort of visual technique that will allow you to see through this mist, there's nothing you can do. Dad's right, we're blind here. Our eyes are useless. Kuritsuchi added. Well, I'm the exception, said Brook, the humming swordsman. Everyone looked at Brook. Seriously, how? Kuritsuchi inquired. Well, I don't have eyes, yo ho ho ho. Brook laughed. Everyone nearly fell over at this. Nalil laughed. That was funny, Mr. Brook. You stupid bastard, take this seriously. Kuritsuchi shouted. Hello there, are you friendlies? A voice suddenly asked. Are you? Kitsuchi asked. I'm a member of the Hyuga clan. Okay, then come over here, we could use some help, said Kitsuchi. A male Hyuga ran into view. Greetings, I'm Ryahe. Commander Kiraku-sen. All available Hyuga clansmen into the mist to aid those trapped. That was smart, Kitsuchi said. We could use some eyes that can actually see. Kitsuchi turned to his group. Okay then, we're going to have Ryahe walk behind us and direct our movements. Let's try to find a way out of this mist and get as many people as we can to come with us. What about the enemy? Kuritsuchi asked. We'll engage them if we find any. But we will not, and I can't stress this enough, will not seek to engage them. They've got the advantage right now, Kitsuchi reminded his daughter. Kitsuchi turned back to Ryahe. Do you understand your assignment, Ryahe? Ryahe nodded. Perfectly, Captain Kitsuchi. The group moved into a single file line with Kitsuchi in the lead and Ryahe in the back. All right, forward march, Kitsuchi ordered. The group started to march. This went on for a few moments, until Kitsuchi noticed someone speeding towards his group from behind. Captain, I've got a large enemy moving straight towards us, Ryahe shouted, spinning around. God, his chakra levels are insane. Ryahe got into a gentle fist stance as the enemy came into view. Fubuki Suikazan grinned madly at the 6 enemies before him. Gentle fist, Ryahe shouted, coating his hands in chakra. Ryahe punched forward, only for Fubuki to swing his blade. Everyone watched in horror as the chakra around Ryahe's hand vanished. No way, Kuritsuchi muttered. It can't be. Kitsuchi laughed. Fubuki smirked. Picked a bad enemy to fight, Hyuga. Fubuki then manipulated his hair and launched several strands of it in the form of a spiked needle. With impressive speed, Fubuki drove the needle straight in between Ryahe's eyes, killing him instantly. The squad watched in horror as the spike came out from the other side of Ryahe's head. No, Miliana shouted. That's not possible, Kitsuchi muttered. That blade is supposed to be in Killer Bee's possession. Fubuki smirked. Well, this isn't the real shark skin, he admitted, raising the terrifying blade. It's a replica, forged by Lord Kanton's men. Kitsuchi's eyes widened. That has to mean that all 7 swords of the Mist Village are in possession of their original owners. This is bad, he thought. Bastard. Miliana shouted. Kitten blast. Sero. Nalil shouted. Fubuki smirked as both attacks came straight towards him. It's useless. Fubuki shouted, swinging shark skin. Nalil and Milian watched in horror as the attacks dispersed. Miliana pulled back her whip. How is that possible? She wondered. Based on information gathered so far, magic energy and spirit energy are quite similar to chakra. Fubuki explained. Because of that, shark skin can absorb such power. And I must say, he loves the taste. This is really bad, Kitsuchi thought. The only way to combat someone who wields the terrifying blade known as shark skin is to use taijutsu. Now in most cases, that wouldn't be a problem. Taijutsu is my specialty. However, Kitsuchi continued, this isn't most cases. We're trapped in the hidden mist jutsu. A place that is practically a playground of death for the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. In a place like this, even taijutsu is out of the question because they can vanish in to the mist at any time during an onslaught of taijutsu. Before Kitsuchi could think any more, one of his squad stepped out of formation to face Fubuki. So, your sword can absorb power. If that's the case, what happens when you go up against someone with no unique power? The other 4 squad members looked at Brook in shock. What are you doing, Brook? Kuritsuchi asked. While I admit that I am quite frightened at the moment, it's clear to me that I'm the only person capable of combating this man without having to worry about that sword's unique ability. Am I correct, Captain Kitsuchi? Kitsuchi sighed. Yes, I'm afraid that's correct. Kitsuchi looked at Brook. Are you sure you want to go through with this? I can just make us an escape route with some Earth-style ninjutsu. Brook shook his head. It's time I write a new song. Ballad of the Mist. Brook said. A song cannot be written if you don't try to write it. Kitsuchi understood the meaning behind Brook's words. Okay, watch yourself though. This guy is part of the strongest generation of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. Yo ho ho ho. Brook laughed. Don't worry about me, I've already seen the might of the man who will be the world's greatest swordsman. Someone like this is no problem for me. Fubuki frowned at the jab against his own skills. You'll pay for downplaying me, skeleton. Go now, Brook ordered. Kitsuchi nodded. Move out, he ordered. We're going to put some distance between us in this battle and get back into formation. But Dad, Kuritsuchi began. Brook can handle himself, now come on. As the remaining members of Brook's squad disappeared into the mist, Brook turned his full attention on Fubuki. Tell me, is your brain as dead as the rest of you? Fubuki asked. Taking me on alone is very foolish. Brook did not respond for a moment. He then did something that surprised Fubuki. He started to sing. Going to deliver Bink's sake. Following the sea breeze, riding along the waves, far across the salty depths. The merry evening sun. The birds sing as they draw circles in the sky. You're singing? Fubuki asked in surprise. Brook ignored Fubuki as he continued to sing, easing the remaining nerves that were still in his body. With X Drake, former Rear Admiral X Drake, now Red Flag Drake, captain of the Drake Pirates, glared at the short-bearded man before him, who stood over the corpses of all 4 members of Drake's squad. Jinin Akebino of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist chuckled. What can I say? They shouldn't have tried to defend against me. Nothing can defend against Helmet Splitter. Drake looked at his ruined weapons. Yeah, I noticed, he muttered. Drake threw his weapons to the ground. I guess I'll just have no choice but to stop you a different way. Jinin watched as Drake transformed. Within moments, Drake was now a green dinosaur. What is this? Jinin wondered out loud. Lizard fruit. Dinosaur model. Drake announced. A devil fruit. Jinin muttered. Diamante mentioned those damn things. With that, Jinin retreated into the mist, not wanting to directly fight the now enormous Drake. Drake took a moment to sniff the air around him. He smirked when he managed to isolate something in particular. I've got your scent, swordsman. Drake grinned madly. Jinin realized what was happening and leapt back just as Drake attempted to pounce on him. With Kagura, weapon met weapon as Kagura Mick. Azuki and Mangetsu Hazuka clashed with one another. Mangetsu had sensed the defeat of his clones and had redoubled his efforts to defeat the ace of the Mermaid Heel Guild. He was admittedly enjoying himself in this battle. Kagura's unique sword style, the style of the undrawn sword, was interesting and also impressive. However, there was one thing about Kagura's fighting style that was starting to irritate Mangetsu. Every time he would push Kagura back into a zero visibility area, she would leap back and use her slashing form once more to clear away the mist around her. In other words, the T-Wo fighters were locked in a deadly stalemate, and neither were giving each other an inch. Mangetsu raised Haramakare to the side. "Release!" he shouted. Haramakare took the form of an axe. Yelling with exertion, Mangetsu swung the axe at Kagura, who ducked under the attack and rushed her opponent. "Strong form," she shouted, stabbing forward. Mangetsu gasped as the blade destroyed half of his liquid body and dispersed a portion of the mist behind him. As Mangetsu reformed, he took notice of the dispersed portion. If she keeps this up, the plan will be ruined. An irritated Mangetsu thought. Mangetsu slashed downwards, only for Kagura to jump out of the way. Kagura swung her blade in midair. Long form. The slash moved so fast, an air blade shot towards Mangetsu, who blocked it with Haramakare. "I cannot afford to lose this fight. Otherwise I'll lose face with just about everyone here," he decided. Mangetsu dug his blade into the ground and did some hand signs. Water style. Senbon rainstorm. Several senbon made of water appeared around Mangetsu and sped towards Kagura. Kagura, with speed honed through combat, blocked each attack. The water splashed around her with each senbon that struck archenemy. As this happened, Mangetsu retreated back into the mist. Kagura, though she did not show it, was starting to get frustrated with Mangetsu tactics. "Using my forms to clear away the mist is effective, but it also slowly saps away my stamina. I need to corner him and end this fight," Kagura thought. No sooner had Kagura thought that, Mangetsu leapt out of the mist with two enlarged hands. Kagura had no time to think with Mangetsu charging her the way he was. "He's charging me without the sword," Kagura noticed. "Gravity change," Kagura shouted. Mangetsu gasped as the gravity around him changed. He suddenly felt heavier. Suddenly, he bursted into water and fell to the floor. Kagura narrowed her eyes at this. A water clone, she thought angrily. Mangetsu leapt at her from behind and grabbed her head. Kagura gasped as she spun around and slashed him, destroying him and showing this Mangetsu to also be a water clone. "He's trying to wear me out," Kagura realized. Suddenly, Mangetsu charged Kagura, wielding Haramakare. "Here's the real one," Kagura thought. Mangetsu swung his blade at Kagura. Kagura swung archenemy at Haramakare. When the two blades collided, however, something unexpected happened. Kagura's eyes widened as archenemy passed through water, dispersing Haramakare. "What?" she thought in surprise. Before she could react, a blade of blue chakra shot out of the mist, cutting Kagura deeply across the abdomen and Mangetsu, who also dispersed into water. Kagura cried out as she was knocked backwards. Mangetsu Hazuka laughed as he stepped into view, looking at Kagura's downed form. He then stabbed Kagura in the shoulder, preventing her from wielding her longsword effectively. "Impressive, huh?" Mangetsu asked mockingly. "That Haramakare you destroyed, it was a water clone I transformed into Haramakare. It was a basic transformation jutsu and you fell for it perfectly." Mangetsu then looked at archenemy, which had fallen out of Kagura's hand after he had stabbed her in the shoulder. He then kicked it away from her and walked over to the blade. He picked it up and smirked, admiring the blade. "This really is an amazing blade," he complimented. "Almost perfect in design. It's beautiful, really. In fact," he continued, "it's too good for you. If you don't mind, I'm going to take this off your hand so it is wielded by someone who's a bit more worthy." Kagura's eyes widened at this when she realized what he meant. "You bastard," she said, uncharacteristically glaring with fury, "I won't let you take my sword." Mangetsu smirked at this. "You don't have a choice," he said. "That wound of yours will bleed out if you don't get it looked at. Furthermore, even if you decided on the whole, if I'm dying I'm taking you with me, with that wound in your shoulder, the chances of you doing anything to me are rather slim." Kagura shook her head. "I can still do this," she reminded him. "Gravity change." Mangetsu, eyes widened as he felt an enormous weight on his body. I won't let you take archenemy. Kagura shouted. That blade is a part of my soul. You have no right to take a part of my soul. With every word, the weight Kagura was applying to Mangetsu grew heavier and heavier. What both parties failed to notice, however, was that something was cracking from the pressure created by Kagura's gravity change. Before either Kagura or Mangetsu could realize what was happening, the sound of something shattering was heard. Kagura's eyes widened in shock and horror. Mangetsu gasped in surprise. They both watched in stunned silence as the broken pieces of archenemy fell to the floor. All Mangetsu was clutching now was the blade's hilt. At that moment, Kagura Mikazuki, the calm and proper ace of Mermaid Heel, screamed. Archenemy. Miliana's ears twitched. She could not help but shake the feeling that she had just heard someone familiar scream. No, it was not just a feeling. Miliana was certain that she had heard someone scream. She had trained her ears to be as sharp as a cat. But who would be? A quick search through Miliana's memories allowed the cat woman to figure out who was screaming. And the person she found shocked her to the core. Kagura, she said quietly. Kitsuchi, Kuretsuchi, and Nalil turned around. What was that, Miliana? Nalil asked. Miliana heard more screaming from Kagura. She immediately went pale, wondering what was causing her to be this way. Kagura, she shouted in worry. Throwing caution to the wind, Miliana ran towards the source of the scream, much to the shock of her teammates. Hey, Miliana, Kuretsuchi shouted. Don't worry, Nalil immediately said. Hoping to avoid a situation, I'll go after her. Out of the question, we need to stick together. Kuretsuchi argued, and letting her go off alone is a better idea. Nalil inquired. She's right, Kuretsuchi. Let her go, Kitsuchi interjected. Kuretsuchi growled at this. Fine, she said, your funeral. Nalil ignored the last part and ran into the mist after Miliana. He's definitely going to go in a straight line, Nalil thought. If I just follow the direction I last saw her take, I will catch up to her eventually. Kuretsuchi watched this happen, and then felt her father hit her in the back of the head. It was not going to leave a mark. However, it did do the job of telling her that he was displeased. What was that for? Kuretsuchi asked. What do you mean, what was that for? Kitsuchi was not happy. Do not conduct yourself in such a manner, Kuretsuchi. You are a rock kunoichi, act like it. Yeah, but, if things were the same as they were before, I'd agree with you. I would be all for letting that girl get herself killed. Hell, I'll even say that I would have forced Nalil to stay behind and let Miliana die. Kitsuchi admitted. But things aren't the same as before. Kitsuchi lowered his head a bit. Seeing Dad change the way he did, and seeing him change the way we treat our comrades, the more I see it become permanent, the more I start to believe in it. So then if it is different from the way we used to do things, Kitsuchi continued, I will not leave a comrade alone. I will almost always let one of our own go after said comrade, even if it is crazy and possibly detrimental to us. Kitsuchi narrowed his eyes at Kuretsuchi. And as my daughter, I don't want to hear any complaints from you about it. Kuretsuchi sighed. Yes, father. Kitsuchi nodded. Let's keep moving in the direction we were going before. Kitsuchi ordered. And have faith that Nalil and Miliana will be fine. With Kagura, teardrops stained the floor. Kagura Mikazuki was laying on the ground. Her teary eyes wide as she stared at the sad remains of the once great blade, archenemy, her sword. Mangetsu Hazuka growled in anger as he tossed the hilt to ground. Damn thing is useless now, he said with fury. Mangetsu turned his attention to Kagura. He growled. This is all your fault. Now I'll never get to see that blade's true potential. Kagura did not respond. She simply stared at the broken blade. Mangetsu growled in anger again and marched over to his downed opponent. You bitch, Mangetsu shouted. Is it not enough for you to ruin that blade for me? Now you've got to ignore me when I'm talking to you. Kagura still did not respond. Mangetsu yelled in anger as he grabbed Kagura by the neck, ignoring the blood from her wounds that was now dripping onto his feet. Answer me when I'm talking to you, you stupid bitch. Mangetsu yelled. You've ruined that sword for me. Much to Mangetsu's surprise, Kagura still did not respond. She simply looked at him, her eyes still wide and teary. What was more, they seemed dead. Her eyes were dead and soulless. Archenemy, she muttered. Mangetsu. Eyes widened when he realized what was happening. Well, I'll be damned, he said in surprise, she's been broken. The trauma was too much for her to take. Mangetsu took a brief look at the remains. I guess she just couldn't handle losing her sword. It really must have been a part of her soul to make her act like this. Mangetsu unceremoniously dropped Kagura onto her back. He raised Haramakere. This girl must be seriously screwed up in the head to lose it from accidentally destroying her sword. He mused. Either that, or this was her breaking point. Mangetsu shook his head. I don't think I want to know what happened before if it's the latter. Mangetsu smirked. Well, he continued, if I kill her now, I'll never have to worry about finding out. Mangetsu swung down Haramakere. He grinned madly, thinking he was going to finish off the weakened Kagura. However, he instead gasped in surprise as his blade met the tip of a spear. I was wondering what that sudden burst of power was earlier, said a familiar voice. When I heard the screaming, I had to investigate. Never imagined I'd find this. Mangetsu glared at his new opponent. You, he growled. Akaku Madarame glared back. You've got some nerve trying to finish off an opponent that can't fight back. He told Mangetsu. It actually angered Akaku greatly. His captain would sometimes preach that it was pointless to kill an enemy that could not fight back. Like everything else Kenpachi Zaraki would preach to the members of Squad 11, Akaku took those words to heart as well. Mangetsu scoffed at this. Grow up, Baldy, this is war. Akaku forced Mangetsu away from Kagura. I'm not gonna let a war stop me from following what I believe in. That's just how I do things. Akaku got into a fighting stance, twirling Hozukimaru. Now get that dumb sword of yours ready, because we're fighting. Get in line, Akaku, a familiar face stepped into view. I have a bone to pick with this monster as well. Take your own advice, Ayasagawa. Yet another familiar face stepped in. I'm going first. Akaku looked at the new arrivals in surprise. Yumachika, Cavendish, I'm surprised to see you guys here. Not because of the mist, Akaku added mentally, but I honestly thought those two would kill each other the first chance they got. Mangetsu looked at he three eager fighters and laughed at them all. This is exhilarating, he cackled. 3 people who have a bone to pick with little old me. 3 people who can't seem to decide who's going first. Mangetsu raised Haramakere. Why don't I make the decision for you? He inquired mockingly. I choose to fight all 3 of you at once. It won't matter in the end anyway. Akaku scoffed. Squad 11 doesn't do anything but one-on-one fights. I'll make an exception as long as I beat the crap out of this bastard. Yumachika grinned. Same here, said Cavendish. Akaku's sweat dropped at this. I don't want to KN. What happened to make Yumachika like this, for many reasons. Akaku sighed. Okay, he said, since I don't want to deal with you idiots, we'll take him on together. With that, Akaku Madarame, Yumachika Yasagawa, and Cavendish the Pirate Prince charged Mangetsu Hazuka, the second coming of the demon. Brook vs. Fuguki. Fuguki Suikazan drove Shark Skin into the ground and clapped his hands together. His long hair rose up and fired several long needles at his opponent. He watched in anger and frustration as the Soul King, Brook, effortlessly blocked each needle with every speedy thrust from his sword. Damned bag of bones, Fuguki thought angrily. Shouldn't he be dead already? Fuguki charged Brook and swung Shark Skin at Brook. Brook had a good idea of Fuguki's position due to his last attack and blocked him easily. Fuguki angrily leapt back. Brook then went on the offensive and charged Fuguki. Fuguki ripped Shark Skin from the ground and raised it to block. However, instead of being attacked, Fuguki was surprised when Brook simply moved past him. Fuguki turned around, raising an eyebrow at this. The hell, you will really belt out this next note, Brook said, sheathing his blade, soul solid. Fuguki was still confused as Brook took 3 steps. However, on the 3rd step, his eyes widened as blood spurted out of his body. 3 verse humming. Arrow notch slash. Brook shouted. Fuguki gasped. That technique, he thought in realization, it's just like the samurai's Iijutsu. Brook turned around. Yo ho ho ho, he laughed. I told you so, you bony bastard. Fuguki growled, ignoring the pain. I'm going to rip you apart for that. Yo ho ho ho, Brook continued to laugh, might I ask how? Your sword doesn't seem like the cutting type. Fubuki smirked. Yeah, you're right, it isn't. He admitted. The bandages around Shark's skin started to unwrap. Shark's skin doesn't cut, it shaves. It devours energy and drains the enemy. He explained. I'll admit, fighting you has been a pain because you don't use any form of special energy for power. In fact, I'll even admit that sort of information I now have on you speaks volumes of the power that resides in your world. You make me blush, even though I do not have blood to rush to my cheeks. Brook joked. Fubuki frowned at the bad joke as the bandages continued unwrapping. I may not be able to drain you, skeleton, but I can still rip you limb from limb. Fubuki told him. I just need to change the form of Shark's skin. He continued. Brook clapped his free hand to his cheek and screamed in horror as Shark's skin's true form was revealed to him. Fubuki's smirk returned. This is the true form of Shark's skin that is hidden within the bandages. He explained. I'm going to rip you apart slowly and painfully. The only question is, will it be done with the scales, or the teeth? Oh, what a terrifying sight to behold, even though I don't have eyes. Brook said, still trying to make light of his situation. Fubuki's frown returned. Does he enjoy reminding people that he's a skeleton or something? He thought. Fubuki sighed deeply. Whatever the case, I'm going to rip this stupid bag of bones apart for making me angry. Fubuki ran towards Brook and swung Shark's skin at Brook. Brook leapt out of the way, but was forced to raise Soul Solid when Shark's skin's mouth lunged at Brook. Soul Solid managed to stop Shark's skin's mouth. To avoid losing Soul Solid to Shark's skin's teeth, Brook channeled his soul into the blade, freezing it. Shark's skin recoiled from the sudden change in temperature. Fubuki frowned at this. Well, that's new, he muttered. Brook charged Fubuki. Gavotte. Brook suddenly propelled himself forward. Bond en avant. Fubuki gritted his teeth in pain and anger as Brook impaled his shoulder. He felt ice forming around the wound. Brook leapt CK and put some distance between himself and Fubuki. Fubuki ripped the ice from his body and glared at Brook, who did not see Fubuki anymore due to the mist. Annoyed at Brook still being alive, Fubuki began to act recklessly. Rather than going into the mist and waiting for an opportunity to stealthily end his opponent, he instead merely charged him. Brook, however, was ready, and easily dodged each attempt Fubuki made to have Shark's skin clamp down on Brook. After dodging several strikes, Brook leapt into the air. Swallow, he said, Bond en avant. Fubuki cried out as Brook cut through his sword shoulder. Brook put some distance between himself and Fubuki and smirked. That should incapacitate you. Fubuki glared at Brook and switched Shark's skin to his left hand. Brook, at first, did not think at Fubuki would be able to wield it as effectively. However, Brook was surprised when Fubuki swung at his head. Luckily for Brook, the swing was a bit off course, meaning that the swing would have struck his afro. However, Brook still chose to dodge in the end. Brook quickly checked to make sure his afro was still there. Phew, thank goodness, he muttered. Fubuki was confused. What's with that? He asked. You wouldn't have died. You're right, I wouldn't have, but something just as important to me as my life would have, my dream. Brook explained. Brook lowered his head, remembering Laboon the whale, his friend. No matter what, I must keep my hair safe, so he can recognize me when we meet again. Brook reminded himself. Fubuki smirked at this. That's good information to have. This victory is now in the bag for me. Brook glared at Fubuki. You fiend, Brook growled, that lacks honor. Honor means little in war, skeleton. Fubuki told him. If I want to aim for your afro to distract you, believe me I will. You can't focus that way. Fubuki continued. With this information, I will defeat you. Fubuki charged Brook, only for his eyes to widen as Brook moved past him. It seems that with your arrogance, you've forgotten a more important piece of information about me. Brook told him. And because of that, I have won this fight. Brook sheathed Soul Solid. Fubuki gasped as he was cut vertically. The area around his injury turning to ice. Song of Scratches, Brook said, Blizzard Slice. Fubuki collapsed to his knees, dropping Shark's skin. I can't lose to this damned skeleton, Fubuki thought. I need more power. Brook started walking away, thinking he had won the fight. However, a roar stopped him dead in his tracks. Brook turned around and his eyes went wide. Fubuki had gotten to his feet and was staring at Brook murderously. His appearance had changed, becoming more fish-like. His fangs had become more pronounced. What is that thing? Brook wondered, shaking slightly. Brook was suddenly broken of his thoughts as the monstrous Fubuki grabbed him by the face and threw him several feet away. Drake vs. Jinnen. Jinnen Akebino frowned as the mist suddenly faded a bit. For Jinnen, it could mean many things. However, what it all boiled down to was that someone was not maintaining their end of the jutsu anymore. The only question is, who was it? Was it Fubuki or Mangetsu? Jinnen wondered. Both of them get so careless sometimes. Jinnen was broken out of his thoughts by Drake pouncing at him. Jinnen leapt out of the way and raised the hammer part of Helmet Splitter. He swung it downwards, intent on smashing Drake's head in. Jinnen, however, was surprised when Drake's large tail knocked it out of the way. Jinnen gritted his teeth and swung the axe part of Helmet Splitter. Drake lunged and stopped the blade with his teeth. Jinnen growled in anger. Damn you! Drake whipped his head around and threw Jinnen to the side. Drake smirked at his opponent as he got to his feet. Dinosaurs were once the deadliest of predators. Do you at least understand why now? Screw off! Jinnen shouted. I am a shinobi, a warrior, no, a predator, that surpasses your dinosaurs. Jinnen slammed the hammer into the ground, eating a large shockwave that forced Drake back a few feet. Jinnen leapt into the air and brought the axe down on Drake. Drake leapt out of the way just in time, watching as the axe struck the ground, creating a small fissure. That really is a powerful weapon, Drake mentally admitted. Jinnen cackled and went on the offensive, wildly swinging the hammer and axe at Drake, who weaved his head and body in and out of each attack. Drake eventually saw an opening and struck Jinnen in the side with his tail. Jinnen grunted in pain as he flew off to the side. Jinnen angrily got to his feet. You think you're better than me? Jinnen growled at his opponent. I am Jinnen Akebino, a member of the strongest generation of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Yeah, so, reputations don't mean jack in places like this. All that matters is who's left in the end. Drake told him. You think you're so tough? Jinnen was angry now. Do you even realize what I went through to even become a ninja in the first place? Drake glared at Jinnen, but allowed him to continue. When the 4th Mizukage, Yagura took over the 3rd Mizukage, Shirato Yuki, he began the tradition of pitting academy students against one another, making them fight to the death in order to graduate. I had to kill my own comrades just to become a ninja. Don't you dare tell me that my reputation doesn't mean anything, because I have built that reputation from the blood of even my own comrades. Drake narrowed his eyes at this, and before Jinnen could react, he was pinned to the floor by Drake's foot. You little prick, Drake growled, you think that because you've had it bad you can just disregard everyone else? Jinnen was surprised at Drake's anger. I'm a former rear admiral in the Marines, you little bastard. Can you even comprehend the things I was forced to watch? I watched men gun down civilians they had sworn to protect in the name of their so-called justice. Hell, I participated in it a few times because I let myself believe we were doing the right thing. Jinnen could not move. What made you change your mind? Jinnen asked. Drake frowned. I watched a comrade of mine executed for disobeying orders. We were ordered to wipe out an entire town, in the name of justice, because apparently a part of the criminal underworld was based there. Sadly, the current fleet admiral was in charge of the mission, so instead of taking time and investigating, he ordered us to wipe out the entire place to be thorough. Everything was going fine, until we discovered that my friend had a relative among the dead. Even Jinnen had the decency to look shocked at this. When we found several civilians hiding, my friend tried to protect them. She was shot instead. She was a good friend and a good soldier, and she was shot for doing the right thing, something Marines rarely seem to do anymore. It was at that moment I realized that my hands were stained with the blood of the innocent, even if it was in the name of justice. So I left. Drake lowered his head down and glared at Jinnen. Don't you dare try to tell me that you've had it worse than everyone else. If you didn't want to kill your friends, then you should have walked. At least your friends had the capability to fight back. Try to keep things in perspective, swordsman. There will always be someone who's had it worse than you. If it were any other time, I'd spare you and let you figure things out for yourself, but this is war. So I'll send you to meet those friends you killed. Drake opened his mouth, revealing several rows of sharp teeth. Jinin's eyes went wide as Drake tore into his throat. Jinin gasped and choked as blood spurted out of his body. Within minutes, Jinin Akebino of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist would be dead. All he could do was think about Drake's final words to him. Akaku, Yumachika, and Cavendish vs. Mangetsu. Mangetsu Hazuka had shown little interest in what was going on around him, which was basically people failing to harm him due to his liquid body. However, what had caught his attention was the mist suddenly thinning out a bit. This surprised the second coming of the demon greatly. What the hell happened to Jinin and Fubuki? Mangetsu growled angrily. I swear if those two have disgraced our team. Mangetsu then remembered something else. A thought that made him grin slightly. Still, if they're dead that means. Mangetsu was interrupted by his thoughts. He was decapitated by a strike from Akaku. I don't care if you can reform, you bastard, focus on the fight. Mangetsu reformed and gave Akaku a deadpanned look. If you could actually harm me, Soul Reaper, it would be different. The thing is, you can't. Mangetsu was then cleaved in half by Durandal. He quickly reformed and struck at Cavendish, who blocked the strike. Mangetsu then saw Yumachika off to the side rushing towards him. Mangetsu allowed Yumachika to cut into him. Mangetsu, like always, reformed. He knocked Cavendish off balance and then turned his attention to Yumachika. Mangetsu swung Haramakare, only for it to be blocked by Fuji Kujaku. Even if you do seem a bit airheaded at times from focusing on your looks, I can tell you do have some intelligence. Mangetsu noted. That being the case, why do you even bother attacking me when it's useless? Yumachika smirked and raised a hand. Well, I didn't have a choice. I knew I had to get close enough so you couldn't dodge what comes next. Mangetsu frowned. And what are you going to do? Hado number 4, Yumachika replied, Byakurai. Mangetsu. Eyes widened as lightning went straight through his shoulder. While the wound quickly reformed. What really hurt Mangetsu was the fact that the lightning coursed through his entire body, due to water being a conductor for electricity. Mangetsu screamed in pain as the lightning tore through his body. Gritting his teeth, Mangetsu leapt away before Yumachika could follow up. This is bad, Mangetsu thought. They've found my weakness. Mangetsu vanished into the mist. This is going to take a lot of chakra, but I have no choice. I have to thicken the mist a bit more or they're going to keep hitting me with electricity. Akaku, Yumachika, and Cavendish all formed up just as the mist started to thicken. Damn, Akaku muttered, and just when things were starting to clear up. He must be the only one left who's maintaining the mist. Cavendish surmised. That means, if there was anyone else maintaining it, they've been defeated. That means he's been forced to pick up the slack. Whatever the case, we now have his weakness. Yumachika reminded his allies. Yumachika then gave out his strategy. I need you both to distract him. Force him into my line of vision so I can hit him with a higher level Kido spell. You're willing to let me vent on him without you getting in the way? I'm in. Cavendish grinned. I'm not normally the strategic type, but that water body of his is starting to piss me off. Akaku admitted. Do what you've got to do, Yumachika. Akaku and Cavendish plunged into the mist in two different directions. Akaku went forwards, Cavendish went backwards. We'll keep him in your normal line of sight. Just fire straight when one of us gives the signal. Akaku called out. Akaku was immediately confronted by Mangetsu, who ran in from the side with Haramakare raised. Akaku raised Hozukimaru to block the attack. Meanwhile, Cavendish was also confronted by Mangetsu, who also ran in from the side with Haramakare raised. Cavendish raised Durandal to block the attack. Both men were surprised when the blade wielded by their opponent burst into water. Akaku was surprised by this. He quickly regained his composure and stabbed Mangetsu in the chest, hoping to still lure him to Yumachika. However, Mangetsu instead exploded in water, revealing that he was a water clone. Cavendish as also surprised when the blade turned out to be made of water. However, like Akaku, he quickly regained his composure as well and countered Mangetsu. Beautiful sword. Blue bird. Cavendish stabbed Mangetsu, who exploded into water from the force of the attack. When Mangetsu did not reform, Cavendish, in his rage-induced mind, thought he had won the fight. However, He was broken out of his thoughts when he heard Yumachika cry out. Earlier, Yumachika had heard the sounds of battle on not one, but both sides. He found himself wondering if someone else had joined the fray. In the end, Yumachika decided to simply wait until someone gave the signal. Those two better hurry up, Yumachika thought. I want to kick that bastard's ass so badly. Yumachika's thoughts were interrupted when he suddenly felt something cut deep into his back. Yumachika cried out in pain as he felt a blade cut into his flesh and also damage his spine in the process. The Squad 11 fifth seat collapsed forward. Mangetsu Hazuka stood behind his downed opponent. Frowning. Damn, he said, I guess I didn't have enough chakra to extend the blade enough to cut him in half. Mangetsu walked over to Yumachika. Whatever the case, that should keep him from dodging the death blow. After I finish him, I'll retreat to rest and regain my chakra. Before Mangetsu could stab downwards, a female voice called out, Nekosoku tube, Manjits. Yu gasped in surprise as he was suddenly restrained by a tube of sorts. I'm glad the mist cleared up enough for me to see you before you increased it. Miliana stepped into view. Once I gauged your new position from tracking you. I just had to wait for you to let your guard down. I just wish I could have gotten here quickly enough to save Yumachika. Mangetsu struggled against his restraints. Why can't I free myself? Mangetsu thought. Akaku and Cavendish came into view. Akaku saw the bindings and whistled in appreciation. Nice job, cat girl. The mist started to clear up. It looks like incapacitating him was enough to remove the mist. Cavendish noted. Girl, why am I not liquefying? Mangetsu frantically asked. Miliana looked at Mangetsu in surprise, wondering what he was talking about. She then started laughing. That's just perfect, she said. Your chakra must have been cut off by my binding magic. Mangetsu's eyes widened at this. My binding magic normally cuts off people's magic power. Miliana explained. I guess because spirit energy and chakra works similarly, it also cuts off those power sources as well. I get it, and because that liquid body of his is maintained by his chakra, Cavendish surmised. Cavendish's eyes widened as realization hit him. That means I can wail on this bastard with everything I've got now. Mangetsu saw the demonic look in Cavendish's eyes. Realizing he was in deep trouble, the second coming of the demon could only scream in horror at his current situation. When the hidden mist jutsu cleared, many people who had been close by to the mist were greeted by several different sights. Several soldiers, dead from various injuries to vital zones, X-Drake in his dinosaur form standing over the corpse of Jinin Akebino, Kagura down and incapacitated, and Aku and Cavendish about to wail on a bound Mangetsu Hazuka. Shunsui Kiraku grinned with pride at this. Now if we can just get rid of these damn vines. He muttered, cutting another attacking plant. Meanwhile, 5 people leapt across the Worthwood Sea, bringing down attacking vines. Might Guy, the Leaf's noble gentleman, lead the squad. Behind him was the Leaf's handsome devil, Rock Lee, Quattro Cerberus Bacchus and Rocker. And the massacre soldier, Killer. We must find our enemy and defeat him. Guy told his comrades. If we don't, he will cause even more trouble for our youthful comrades. Of course, you are right as always. Guy-sensei, Lee shouted. If I cannot find my enemy in 5 minutes, I will run 100 laps around Crocus on my hands. And if I cannot find the enemy in 3 minutes, I will do 5,001 finger push-ups. Guy added. Bacchus laughed at this. These guys are wild. He turned to Rocker. Pay attention, Rocker, these guys are good to hang with for our souls. Whatever you say, Bacchus, Rocker said with rapt attention. Killer was the only one who did not look amused. I really want to kill these guys, he thought. Killer, however, decided on a more peaceful route before going for what was honestly the last possible solution. Excuse me, Guy, Killer said, but we should keep the element of surprise. And part of keeping the element of surprise is to stay silent. But our enemies must feel our flames of youth. Guy argued. Yes, but it's hard to keep those flames when you are dead. Killer reminded him. Guy's eyes widened. You are absolutely right, Killer. Guy said. Although might I say before I stop that your name is extremely unyouthful, you should consider changing it. Killer frowned behind his mask. I think not, Guy, this is my birth name. I agree with Guy-sensei. Lee shouted happily. Change your name, Killer. Just ignore them, Killer thought. Just ignore them, just ignore them, just freaking ignore them. Killer was suddenly broken out of his thoughts when he was grabbed by several vines sprouting out of the ground. Killer immediately brought out his blades, only for his arms to be bound by vines as well. Killer! Guy shouted in surprise. Bacchus and Rocker suddenly cried out in surprise as they were also caught by vines. Guy-sensei, I think it is an ambush. Lee pointed out. Vines sprouted out of the ground and Guy and Lee's feet. The two leapt out of the way. Surprisingly, the vines followed Lee instead of Guy. Lee gasped in surprise as the vines caught him and threw him to the ground. Lee! Guy shouted in worry. And now you are the only one left. A new voice spoke. Guy spun around to see a dark-skinned man with brown hair materialize out of the ground. And just who are you? Guy asked, now surprisingly serious. The name's Azuma of Grimoire Heart. Azuma introduced himself. I am a member of the guild's elite team, the Seven Kin of Purgatory. I see. Guy got into a fighting stance. Allow me to introduce myself, Azuma of the Seven Kin. I am the Leaf's noble gentleman, and my name is Might Guy. I know who you are. Azuma told him. You are a Jonin of the Hidden Leaf Village. Currently, you are considered one of the Leaf's strongest fighters. You are also hailed as one of the greatest taijutsu masters in history. To sum it up, Might Guy, you are a worthy opponent. One of many I intend to hunt down and defeat before this war is over. He moved out of the ground. Guy thought, and the vines, they aren't attacking me anymore. Are you the one controlling the vines? Guy asked. Azuma nodded. It is a form of lost magic, known as the Great Tree Arc. It allows me to control the magic that is held within the earth. Then if I defeat you, the vines will stop attacking my comrades. Guy inquired. Azuma nodded. Indeed, he replied, but only if you defeat me, Might Guy. Guy responded by charging Azuma. Azuma quickly raised his hand. Blev. He spoke calmly. Guy was suddenly engulfed in an explosion. Guy-sensei. Lee shouted in worry. In the Intelligence Division's HQ. Commander Urahara, Commander Nara. We've just received word that the Hidden Mist Jutsu has cleared in the Worthwood Sea. A soldier announced. Kazuki held out his fan. I guess I was wrong this time. He said jovially. I'll pay you your winnings next week, Shikaku. Shikaku looked at Kazuki. Don't make a bet that you can't pay off immediately, that's too troublesome. You guys made wagers. Beckman shouted off to the side. Mavis managed to get the group back on track. If that is the case, then we must immediately address the current situation. What are the damages to the group that was in the mist? Several dead and injured. Commander Vermilion. The soldier replied. We've managed to identify 3 enemies. 1 dead, 1 incapacitated, and 1 still fighting. Those who are uninjured are tending to the wounded and regrouping. Mavis nodded. Then there's one thing we can do. She said. Contact Commander Kiraku and tell him to form a perimeter around the injured. There's no doubt that the coalition will target the wounded and tired. Above all, we must keep them all safe. We need all the manpower we get for a war as long as this. And the vines, ma'am. The strategy remains the same. I recon. Eyes that form of magic is a type of lost magic. Mavis explained. Tell Commander Kiraku that there is one man who is using all of those vines. Taking him out will put an end to that. Understood, Commander. The soldier ran off. Mavis turned to Kazuki and Shikaku. As for you two, she began. Shikaku and Kazuki looked at her with slight nervousness. Beckman nodded in approval, thinking Mavis was going to discipline the two. Who do you guys think you are, not letting me in on this bet of yours? Mavis shouted, pouting slightly. Mavis. Beckman immediately shouted in disappointment. On the other side of the Worthwood Sea, Midnight watched with rapt attention as his chosen target took down several soldat at once. You seem distracted, mister. Midnight leapt out of the way as a stone-imbued fist slammed into the ground. Akatsuchi looked at him, grinning. Stay focused, mister. You don't want to die after all. Midnight frowned at this. You're not the one I'm interested in. Akatsuchi frowned. I'm not, he repeated. But I'm an interesting person. Akatsuchi went through some hand signs. Earth style. Earth spike jutsu. Midnight smirked and stood in place as several earth spikes sprouted from the ground. Akatsuchi gasped in surprise when he saw not a single spike strike Midnight. No way, he muttered, that should have hit you. You're not that lucky, are you? Midnight chuckled. No, you're just too weak to keep my attention. Midnight swung his arm out. Spiral pain, he shouted. Akatsuchi suddenly cried out as he was struck by several magic blades. When Akatsuchi hit the ground, Midnight did not bother checking to see if he was dead. Or even incapacitated. Right now, he had someone he was incredibly interested in. Midnight wanted to fight strong opponents. Weak ones were a waste of his time. He had a strong opponent picked out. And nothing was going to stop him from fighting this opponent. With that thought, Midnight charged his target. This one's strong, Midnight thought, this will be fun. Sakura Haruno saw him before he got far. However, there was nothing she could do to stop him, so she settled for calling out to Midnight's chosen target. Ichigo, look out, she shouted. Ichigo spun around to see Midnight coming towards him. He raised the blades of Zangetsu. Midnight smirked at this. You are going to fight me, Ichigo Kurosaki. Midnight told him. But I refuse to let this trash get in the way. We're taking this fight somewhere else. This caused Ichigo to let his guard down in surprise. Midnight took this opportunity to grab his arm. Teleportation. Midnight shouted. Teleportation. Magic was something Midnight had learned when he wanted to get away from his teammates for some peace and quiet. While they often left him alone because of their own fear and respect for his powers, Knight still hated to be disturbed when they fought around him. So, he learned teleportation magic. It soon became not just an opportunity for him to get some undisturbed sleep, but also have the chance to take desired opponents away for him to fight one-on-one. But it was not just this that made Midnight use it today. Usually, removing yourself from the battlefield when you were one of the top 5 GHTERS in your group was detrimental to the war effort. This was actually part of the strategy. As one of the 4 acts of order, Ichigo was a huge threat to Lord Kanton's plan. Midnight and Diamante were easily the strongest in their unit. But it was decided in the end that Midnight would fight Ichigo because his abilities matched up better. Sakura watched in horror as Ichigo and Midnight disappeared. Ichigo, she shouted. Don't lose focus, Sakura. Sanji spoke up, kicking a soldat in the face. Ichigo can take care of himself. Sakura had to agree with this. Ichigo is one of our best fighters though. And with Zoro off who knows where. We're down 2 powerhouses. Sanji kicked another soldat in the gut. If you are frightened, don't worry, Sakura, your handsome prince will protect you. Sakura roared at Sanji and punched a soldat in the face, killing him instantly. Sanji's eyes widened at the damage she had done. Who says I needed protection, Sanji? She asked sweetly. Sanji gulped. Remember, the time he had been punched as well. Understood, he said simply. Someone suddenly flew in between them and hit the ground, dead as a doornail. Sakura immediately noticed this soldier's state. He was in a state similar to those she left after striking them with her full strength. That can't be right, Sakura noted. Is there someone else using Lady Tsunade's super strength on the opposing side? Sakura turned in the direction the dead man had flown in from and her eyes winded in surprise at what she had seen. Menina's Macallan lifted an enormous tree from the ground and wielded it like a baseball bat. Swinging it, Menina's took out several foot soldiers at once. Whoa, now she can hit. Sanji muttered. Sakura ignored Sanji and rushed towards Menina's. Hey, Sakura. Sakura ignored Sanji and continued to run towards Menina's. Menina's noticed Sakura coming and swung the tree at her. Much to her surprise, however, Sakura threw a fist at the tree, shattering it instantly. Sakura immediately followed up with a punch aimed straight at Menina's. Menina's narrowed her eyes and met the fist with her own punch. You're just like me, Menina's mused. How funny. Sakura narrowed her eyes at this. Don't you dare compare us, Sakura said. I gained my strength from the desire to no longer be a burden to my comrades and protect them. You gained your strength solely to take the lives of others. Much to Sakura's surprise, Menina started to laugh. Okay, now that's funny, she said. You really can't make progress with that kind of naive thinking, you know. Sakura responded by hitting Menina's in the face, sending her sprawling onto the ground. The Sternritter quickly leapt to her feet and glared at Sakura. Menina's felt the mark on her face and frowned. Now that isn't funny, she muttered. I'm a medic, I show. I'll be worried about the protection and health of my comrades first. Sakura said. But, they can't be safe until I take you down. Menina's kept her same expression. You can try, Pinky. Meanwhile, Elfman Strauss had broken off from Ichigo, Sakura, and Sanji when he had seen a blur move through a crowd of men, taking them all out with ease. Feeling that it was his duty as a man to help, Elfman ran off to aid them. He was surprised, however, when he saw who had taken down the men. Although, it is probably more accurate to say he was surprised with his opponent's choice of attire. Dellinger of The Don Quixote pirate strutted about proudly in his stilettos and his short shorts. Well, that was a lot of fun. He spoke in a flamboyant manner. He then noticed Elfman for the first time. Oh, hello there. Would you like to be my punching bag next? Dellinger inquired. Elfman simply stared at him. Are you? Elfman began, looking at the short shorts. Actually a man. Meanwhile, Jinbei, Yasutora Sato inquired. Yes, Chad, Jinbei replied. I know we're supposed to have respect for our elders, but this seems a bit much. Chad voiced his concern. Jinbei looked at Lao Ji of the Don Quixote pirates, who was still in his fighting stance. Yes, I suppose you're right, Jinbei admitted. Don't underestimate him, Sato. 100th degree Hack told his new comrade. He is an officer of the Don Quixote pirates, and Don Quixote pirates are among the most powerful pirate crews out there at the moment. Hey, it's okay, I know what you mean, Chad. Choji Akamichi spoke up. I'm not the type to hit an old guy because they're never able to fight back. But this guy doesn't seem like he's unable to fight back. Don't lose focus, Choji, Choza Akamichi admonished his son. This man, regardless of his age, is still our enemy. Just think of him as an evil version of Lord Third. A man who in spite of his advanced age was still extremely powerful. Choji looked at Lao Ji, who was still waiting for the 5 men to attack him. When he saw the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi instead, he almost wanted to cry. I don't think seeing him as Lord Third is going to help us, Pop. Choji lamented. Choza had made the mistake of doing the same thing. Yeah, giving you that idea was a big mistake. He said in agreement. Are you going to fight me or not? Lao Ji asked, emphasizing the G. We have no choice, Jinbei said. If all 5 of us take him together we'll win for sure. Jinbei suddenly heard a voice cry out. He turned to see Brook fall to the ground, defeated. A transformed Fubuki Suikazan moved towards his prone form. Brook, he shouted. I can't let him die. Jinbei thought, for Luffy's sake. I have to save him, Jinbei said. I'm sorry, but this is for Luffy's benefit. Jinbei leapt into action. However, his words caught Bentham's attention. A friend of Straw Hat's. Hack was surprised. Well, if that skeleton is a friend of Jinbei then he is my friend as well. Hack leapt in after Jinbei. While most people would fault soldiers for acting so impulsively, Choji and Choza did not fall in with such thinking. Chad had followed Ichigo's line of thinking so closely ever since the two had become friends all those years ago. Meanwhile, Choji and Choza believed in the will of fire. They weren't going to let a comrade die if they could help it either. So, they all allowed Jinbei and Hack to do what they had to do. I guess it'll just be the 3 of us then, Chad said. Choza grinned. The 3 of us against some old geezer. I actually feel bad because it's still almost like beating up a defenseless old man. Don't let your guard down, Mr. Akamichi, Chad said. If this old man was placed on the battlefield, then they must have faith in his skill. Chad is right, Pop. We need to be careful, Choji added. Choza nodded. Yeah, I guess you're right, he said. Choza turned to Choji. Take the left, son, I've got the right. And me, Mr. Akamichi, Chad inquired. Someone's got to do the middle, Choza reminded him. Attack. Choza and Choji moved to their respective sides while Chad transformed his right arm into Brazo Derecho del Gigante. Lao Ji put on his glasses and prepared to fight once again. Let's get started, he shouted, emphasizing the letter G once again. With Jinbei and Hack, the monstrous Fubuki Suikazan bared down on the defeated Brook. He roared, reveling in his victory. His celebration was cut short, however, when a fist slammed into his snout. And another fist slammed into his gut. Fubuki shrieked as he flew back several feet. Jinbei and Hack stood, glaring at the monster that had taken out Brook. Fubuki glared at his new assailant. He opened his mouth and spat out a great deal of water, forcing Jinbei and Hack to dodge, with Hack grabbing onto Brook. This attack inadvertently saved Mangetsu Hazuka, when the sudden rushing water had knocked into him, loosening the grip of the binding tube. This gave Mangetsu the opportunity he needed to escape. I don't have the chakra I need to continue fighting these guys, Mangetsu lamented. Best thing to do is to grab Jinin's helmet splitter and make a break for it, while Fubuki slaughters these bastards. Mangetsu held up a hand and put in a good amount of his remaining chakra into his next jutsu. Teleportation jutsu, Mangetsu shouted, vanishing and reappearing next to Jinin's corpse. Before Drake could react, Mangetsu grabbed helmet splitter and jumped away from the dinosaur. Pulling out a scroll, Mangetsu sealed away helmet splitter and used the same jutsu as before. Teleportation jutsu, he shouted, vanishing for good this time. This caused Akaku and Cavendish to growl in frustration. Bastard thinks he can run from me, Cavendish ranted. Akaku looked around for the one who had attacked them with the water. His eyes widened when he saw Fubuki. Cat girl, he said to Miliana. Miliana saw Fubuki's current state. Come on, I may need you to bind that thing, said Akaku. Miliana nodded. Cavendish, Akaku addressed the tantrum-throwing man, get Yumachika and Kagura to a medic. Those are some pretty nasty wounds they've got there. Cavendish saw Yumachika and Kagura and nodded. You do what you've got to do, Madarame, Cavendish said, picking up Yumachika and moving to Kagura. My target was that vanishing bastard, anyway. Back with Jinbei and Hack, the fishman jujitsu master gently laid down Brook. Medic, he called out. A Squad 4 Soul Reaper ran over. Make sure his injuries are healed, Hack ordered. Please do all that you can to save him. He is a precious comrade to Jinbei. Of course, said the Soul Reaper. Jinbei got into his fishman karate stance. This monster is very strong. He might prove to be a challenge for even me, especially since I'm a lot weaker on land than in the sea. Hack joined Jinbei. Don't worry, we can take him out together, Hack reassured his longtime friend. Akaku and Miliana moved next to Jinbei and Hack. The third seat had gained a great deal of respect for the two fishmen when he saw them practicing their respective martial arts together. You guys need an extra hand, Akaku inquired. Ah, third seat Madarame. Jinbei was genuinely happy to see the Squad 11 Soul Reaper. Join right in, and you as well, Miliana. We welcome extra help, Jinbei, Miliana said. If I can get in a couple binding spells on him, I can stop him dead in his tracks. Then we'll keep him distracted for you, Jinbei said. Miliana was surprised at how easily Jinbei had agreed. Don't look so surprised, Miliana. Hack joined in. We're all prepared to do what we must to win this war, but not become like our enemy in the process, Jinbei added. Enough talk, Akaku said eagerly. Let's fight. Fubuki seemed to agree, as he roared in response. With Shunsui. Understood. Shunsui Kiraku was just finishing up his conversation with Mavis Vermilion. Thanks for that, Mavis. While he would have normally used his wireless communicator to send out his next orders, he knew he needed to get this next order out quick. The wireless communicator just was not a thing compared to what he was about to do. And with everyone spread out so much, Shunsui ultimately decided to play it safe. The regimental commander of the Allied forces quickly marked his arms, preparing for a certain Kido spell. Bakudo number 77, Tentikura. The markings shone brightly. This is a message to all members of the 1st Division, Shunsui transmitted. To all those who can see the results of the battle inside of the hidden mist jutsu, your orders are as follows. Form a perimeter around the injured and protect them from the enemy. All nearby medics are to treat the injured while this is happening. This is a high priority order. We need all our men battle ready and the mist covered at least a third of our division. Good luck, and stay alive, everyone. Meanwhile, Rorano Azoro heard a LL this as he stood over the corpses of several members of the Don Quixote pirates. Huh, so that's what's been going on, Zoro said to himself. See, that's what they all get for getting lost like that. Poor stupid Zoro still did not realize that he was the one who was lost. I wonder if I'm near them. Zoro wondered out loud. They could use my help. Zoro's head darted from place to place as he tried to find the injured victims of the hidden mist jutsu. Man, the least Commander Kiraku could have done was tell us what direction they were in. Zoro suddenly heard someone running towards him. Assuming the worst, Zoro drew Sandai Kidetsu and swung it. Much to his surprise, the one who blocked it was not an enemy. "Oh, hey there Zaraki," Zoro said. Kenpachi Zaraki grinned. "Hey there, Roronoa, what are you doing here?" he asked. Zoro sighed. "Everyone got lost," he said. "I've been trying to find them for a while now." Kenpachi groaned. "We got lost. Turns out Yakiru's super sharp sense of direction is about as dull as a bad sword." "You're so mean, Kenny," Yakiru pouted. Yakiru then noticed Zoro. "Hi Mossy," Yakiru shouted in glee. Zoro's sweat dropped. Did she just nickname me Mossy? He wondered. "We've been running forever," Kenpachi lamented. "Do you have any idea which way we should go?" "Obviously we should keep going north," Zoro said. "If our friends are behind us to the south with the enemy, that means the enemy base is in front of us in the north." Of course, what Zoro failed to realize was that directions did not change with the direction you were facing. A direction would not become north just because you were facing forward in that direction. "No way, Mossy is wrong," Yakiru piped up. "We should go right, my intuition says so." "I think you're both wrong," said Kenpachi. "We should go northeast, Here's no way things would be that obvious. We should go north, right, northeast." Zoro and Kenpachi glared at each other, while Yakiru pouted on Kenpachi's shoulder. Meanwhile, an enormous figure loomed in the distance. Hanging on the trees, his eyes glowed red as he stared at the two men and one child. "Those three got lost," he muttered to himself. "What a freaking joke these guys are." He smiled darkly. "You're all done for." In an unknown location, Ichigo Kurosaki looked around. Not recognizing the location he was in, he grew worried. "Where am I?" he inquired. "You were with me, Ichigo Kurosaki, that's all that is important," Midnight said, smirking. Ichigo glared at Midnight. "You took me from the others, didn't you?" he asked. Midnight nodded. "Teleportation magic. I can teleport anywhere I have visited depending on how far I'm from said location." Midnight's look went even darker at this. "I of course only use this when I don't want to be interrupted in a fight. Particularly when I've found a strong opponent. And you are definitely worthy of my time," Midnight continued. "You are Ichigo Kurosaki. The coalition has you blacklisted as one of the many threats to our plan, and why wouldn't you be? You are one of the 4 acts of order created by Chitsujo himself." Midnight grinned evilly at him. "Tell me, do you know who I am, Ichigo Kurosaki?" he asked. "I am Midnight of the Oracion Cease. One of the 6 wizards strong enough to make up 1/3 of the Baram Alliance, the 3 most powerful dark guilds in the land. How about you just shut up and fight me already?" That was not a question, it was a statement. "If you really want to fight me, stop talking and do it," Ichigo told him. Midnight raised an eyebrow at this. "If reputations meant anything, I'd have lost to a lot of people." Ichigo continued. "Right now, we're just 2 soldiers on the battlefield. So shut up and fight." Midnight started laughing. "You are eager to die, aren't you, Ichigo Kurosaki?" Midnight raised his hand. "I am going to enjoy this," he continued. Dark Rondo. Ichigo drew one of his blades. Getsuga Tensho. An arc of spirit energy shot towards Midnight's magic. Midnight smirked as he combined his newfound darkness magic with his signature magic. Ichigo's eyes widened as Getsuga Tensho was suddenly redirected somehow. He was quickly broken out of his thoughts when Dark Rondo struck him. Ichigo cried out as he was sent backwards. His focus, however, was still on what happened to his last attack. What the hell happened there? Ichigo thought. I know I aimed Getsuga Tensho right at him. So what happened? Midnight was frowning at Ichigo. I brought you out here because you are a strong opponent, Ichigo Kurosaki. He told him. Don't disappoint me, otherwise I'll just kill you and be done with. Ichigo got to his feet and glared at Midnight. I've got to figure him out fast, Ichigo thought, otherwise, I'm dead. Now, show me your strength, Ichigo Kurosaki. Midnight shouted, raising his hand for another attack. Dark Capriccio. Ichigo Kurosaki leapt out of the way as Midnight fired a drilling beam of darkness at him. He watched as it destroyed a nearby rock. Definitely don't want to be hit by that, he muttered. Ichigo looked at Midnight, who had not moved an inch since beginning the fight. Okay, if using Getsuga Tensho is out of the question, I'll just use something else. Ichigo slashed one blade to the side. A blade of spirit energy appeared. Ichigo then slashed vertically, creating a second blade of spirit energy. Getsuga Jujisho. Midnight's eyes widened with glee as the powerful attack came towards him. His gaze then became a smirk as Getsuga Jujisho was redirected away from him. Ichigo gasped at this. Damn, not even Getsuga Jujisho affects him. What is going on with this guy? Midnight laughed, watching Ichigo try to rack his brain for the answer regarding Midnight's magic. Try as you might, my magic is far too advanced for you to figure it out, and even if you could, you'll never beat it. Ichigo smirked at Midnight. If that were the case, I think this world would be a lot more different, don't you think? Tell me, which fairy tale wizard beat you? Natsu, Urza, that guy, Gildarts. Ichigo's comments enraged the terrifying wizard. Dark Spiral, he shouted, combining Reflector with darkness magic. Ichigo screamed in pain as he was suddenly struck by a combined attack of darkness and distorted air. Midnight smiled with dark glee as he watched his new target writhe in pain. This is the more advanced form of my spiral pain, he thought proudly. The regular form was enough to heavily injure Titania Urza. Let's see what this does to the substitute Soul Reaper, Ichigo Kurosaki. Midnight eventually dispelled his attack and watched as Ichigo fell to the ground. The substitute struggled to his feet. To answer your question, Ichigo Kurosaki, it was Titania Urza. But I moved on from my past a long time ago. The only thing that matters to me now is achieving true freedom, which will only happen by completing Lord Kanton's ambition. The Alliance won't let that happen, Ichigo said confidently. Midnight smirked. Soon the Alliance won't even be able to tell friend from foe, he bragged. What the hell are you talking about? Midnight clapped a hand to his mouth. Whoops, sorry, let that one slip. I really can't say what it is. Secrecy is an important thing in the coalition after all. Stop screwing with me, bastard, Ichigo shouted, flash stepping towards Midnight. Midnight smirked. Dark Blade. Midnight swiped a blade of darkness at Ichigo, who attempted to block the attack with one of his blades. However, once again, Midnight distorted Zangetsu and Ichigo was hit anyway, sending him back several feet. Much to Midnight's amusement, Ichigo remained standing. You were resilient, Midnight complimented. That's good. I don't want this to end too soon after all. I don't have time to let something as weak as that bring me down. Ichigo growled at Midnight. Midnight was surprised at how defiant Ichigo was being. All rest, Ichigo continued, after I defeat you Midnight. Elfman vs. Dellinger. Elfman Strauss growled in frustration as he threw another punch at Dellinger. Only for I am to realize that it was an afterimage left behind by Dellinger's impressive speed. Dellinger appeared behind Elfman. Ah, what's the matter? Muscles, can't seem to get a hit on little old me. Elfman yelled in anger and punched Dellinger once again, only for him to hit an afterimage as well. Not only do you not dress like a man, you don't even fight like a man, Elfman shouted. What is wrong with you? This actually stopped Dellinger in his tracks. Are you telling me there is a problem with how I dress? He asked angrily, in disbelief that Elfman was actually criticizing his amazing attire. Yo, wearing short shorts and stilettos, how is that not a problem? Elfman asked exasperatedly. Dellinger narrowed his eyes. That's what I thought, he said lowly. I was hoping you weren't talking crap about my amazing outfit. I guess I'm not that lucky after all. Dellinger sped towards Elfman. Pistol high heel, he shouted. Elfman could not dodge the attack and took the full force of Dellinger's powerful kick to his stomach. Elfman gasped as he coughed up blood from the sheer force of the attack. He's got a lot of power for a scrawny little bastard, he noted. Elfman managed to land on his feet. And that speed of his is also a problem. Elfman continued. Well, I guess the only thing I can do in this case is fight speed with speed. Beast Soul, Elfman shouted. Where tiger? Dellinger watched as Elfman turned into an enormous tiger man. Ooh, he said, licking his lips in anticipation. I never knew you were into cosplay. Muscles. This isn't cosplay, you cross-dressing freak. Elfman shouted. Elfman and Dellinger sped towards one another. Claw met leg as the two tried to gain an edge over each other. Dellinger leapt onto his hands and propelled himself back into Elfman at extremely high speed. Shotgun stilettos. Elfman put his hands together to block the attack. He was successful, but he still gritted his teeth in pain from the force of Dellinger's attack. Elfman then got a look at his hands. They were bleeding. Dellinger saw this and grinned. "Call me a freak all you want, Muscles," he said. "Although, I must say that is the pot calling the kettle black, but I digress. The fact remains as had I am an officer in the Don Quixote Pirates, one of the top members of the Don Quixote family." Dellinger continued. "Do you get what that means, Muscles? That means someone like you doesn't stand a chance against me." Elfman shook off some of the blood. "Let me ask you something, you scrawny bastard," Elfman said. "Do you know who I am?" "No, and why should I care?" Elfman gestured to the left side of his neck, showing his guild mark. "I'm Elfman Strauss, one of the 3 takeover siblings, and a wizard of the Fairy Tale Guild." He introduced himself. "That means I'm a part of the manliest guild in the universe. A guild that doesn't know the meaning of the word defeat. And if wizards from Fairy Tale don't know the meaning of the word defeat, then that means someone like you doesn't stand a chance against me," continued Elfman. Dellinger seemed bored from Elfman's crap. "Are you done, Muscles?" he asked, huffing arrogantly and putting his hands on his hips. "I'll be done when you're lying at my feet in a bloody pulp, drag queen," Elfman told him. "It's time I show you what a real man does." Dellinger scoffed and leapt at Elfman. "Sorry, Muscles, but I've met plenty of real men in my family, you don't match any of them." Thompson high heels. Elfman's grinned as Dellinger kicked him at extremely high speeds with both feet. "And now the finale," Dellinger shouted, delivering one final kick to Elfman's head. As Dellinger flew in the air, knowing he would land gracefully, he grinned with victory. However, when he landed he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his feet. "Arg!" he shouted, as he collapsed to his knees. He looked at his feet. He gasped at what he saw. His stilettos were almost ruined, and his feet were in really rough shape. "I don't understand," Dellinger said. "Why are my feet like this?" He glared at Elfman. "What did you do?" Dellinger froze mid-sentence as his eyes widened. Elfman had taken on a different form. "Beast Soul," Elfman began, "Lizardman." Dellinger looked over Elfman in his new form. "Those scales," Dellinger whispered. "You used them to turn the force of my attack back on me." Elfman nodded. "Lizardman is my defense form," Elfman explained. "Its scales are so hard, the attacker feels his own blows." "Why you?" Dellinger tried to stand to attack Elfman again, only to scream in pain once more as he collapsed back to his knees. Elfman grinned at this. "What, your feet are already broken?" Elfman asked. "Come on, drag queen, Bacchus lasted a lot longer than you when he faced this form." "Who the hell is Bacchus?" Dellinger growled. "A drunk son of a bitch." "Far away," Bacchus sneezed. Dellinger glared at Elfman. "It doesn't matter what you did to my feet," he screamed. "You still won't win against me." Dellinger got on his hands and propelled himself off the ground once more. Pistol whip leg. Dellinger aimed his leg straight at Elfman's head. Elfman simply stood his ground and took the blow head on. He grunted, as the force still managed to slightly injure him. However, when he heard a bone crack from Dellinger, he knew he had still done his job. Dellinger screamed as he felt his leg break. He fell to his hands and knees. Here, Elfman went on the offensive. The manly Fairy Tale wizard kneed Dellinger hard in the gut with his enormous knee, sending him into the air. He then immediately brought him to the ground with a karate chop to the back. Dellinger coughed up blood as Elfman continued to brutalize him. "This is for insulting my manliness," Elfman shouted, uppercutting Dellinger. As Dellinger flew through the air, Elfman brought his fist back. "And this," Elfman continued, "is for looking down on Fairy Tale by underestimating me." Elfman sent his scaly punch straight into Dellinger's ribs, sending him flying back with a massive amount of force. Dellinger coughed up blue as he felt several ribs shatter from the blow. He managed to wheeze out after hitting the ground. "I can't move." Elfman made his way to Dellinger's down form. "As winner of this battle, I can do whatever the hell I want to you," Elfman said. And a real man doesn't finish off a guy who can't fight back. So you're going to be a POW, drag queen? I think not, said a new voice. What the hell? Hey, Strauss, behind you. A wizard shouted. Elfman turned around to see the wizard who had called to him attacking nothing. Suddenly a man who was strangely dressed like a baby appeared from under the ground and attacked the wizard. Before Elfman could do anything, Senor Pink snapped the man's neck, killing him instantly. No, Elfman shouted in horror. Pink disappeared back into the ground before Elfman could retaliate. While Elfman went to check the man for anything that might give Elfman hope that he could be saved, Pink went over to check on Dellinger. What a sorry sight this is, Pink muttered. Dellinger weakly moved his head. Is that you, Pink? He inquired. How weak of you, Dellinger, losing to a muscle-bound loser like this. Pink admonished his comrade. Surprisingly, what followed was a bit softer. Still, I'm glad you are okay. Pink continued. I'm sorry I couldn't help you sooner. I was busy with the idiots across this battlefield. Che, whatever, just kick that freak's ass for making a mockery of the Don Quixote family. Dellinger muttered. Of course, Pink said, turning to Elfman, who was now looking angry over his dead comrade. After all, family honor is everything. You bastard, Elfman muttered angrily. You call yourself a real man, Elfman Strauss. Pink noted. But I find that you aren't. Do you know why? It's because standing before you is a real man. You're dressed like a baby. Exactly. A real man can dress like anything he wants to, because he makes up for it with his manliness. Pink explained. Elfman narrowed his eyes at Pink. All right then, Elfman said, only way to settle this is to go one-on-one. Let's see who the real man is right now. Besides, Elfman continued, I have to pay you back for anyone you've killed today, not just this guy. After all, doing that is one of the many jobs of a man. Choji, Choza, and Chad vs. Lao Ji. Expansion Jutsu. Choji and Choza Akamichi shouted simultaneously. Lao Ji looked off to his respective sides. Luckily for him, his glass permitted him to see past his usually short sight, a product of his old age. He then saw Chad rush him with Brazo Derecho del Gigante activated. Roaring with exertion, Chad punched at Lao Ji, who leapt backwards to dodge. Human boulder. Choji and Choza shouted. Lao Ji watched as Choji and Choza sped towards him from his left and right respectively. He then pulled his hands in. Great twin punch, he shouted, emphasizing the G as usual. Lao Ji threw his fists forward, striking the two enormous men as they rolled towards him. The force of the attack surprised both Choza and Choji, who both managed to land on their feet. Clutching their guts, Chad rushed towards Lao Ji once again. El Directo, he shouted. Lao Ji saw this coming with his glasses. He leapt into the air. Gallant kick, he shouted, kicking Chad in the back of the head. The kick sent Chad sprawling onto the ground. Chad quickly got to his feet in time to block a punch from Lao Ji with the shield on his right arm. Chad was still sent skidding back several feet, reuniting him with Choji and Choza in the process. He's definitely tough for an old geezer. Choza noted. What do we do, Pop? Choji asked. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do. Choza admitted. This guy is one of the few we've seen that's fighting without any special skills. As far as we know, he didn't eat one of those devil fruits that Joza and Vista kept mentioning. However, Choza said, we still have one option, and that is to turn this into a battle of attrition. He's strong, but he's still an old man. Old men tire easily. The only problem with that is we don't have time to turn this into a battle of attrition. I mean, there is a battle going on after all. Choza made up his mind. Choji, Chad, power won't work, we'll have to match him with speed. Head up a frontal assault and I'll be the support. What are you going to do? Chad asked. Super expansion jutsu, Choza shouted. Lao Ji watched as Choza grew to an enormous size. I'm gonna crush him once you get into position. Choza replied. All right then, let's go Chad. Choji shouted. Chad grunted in response and the two charged Lao Ji once again. Lao Ji frowned at this. If you are attempting to distract me it is not going to work. Lao Ji told them. Even a fool can tell that the giant man behind you is the trump card in your strategy. Sometimes it's not so much as knowing what the trump card is, Choji retorted, but rather can you avoid it. Partial expansion jutsu. Great punch. Choji and Lao Ji's attacks collided. Chad appeared at Lao Ji's side and threw his own punch at him. Lao Ji quickly responded with a kick that blocked the attack. Partial expansion jutsu. Choji shouted again, now enlarging his head. The unorthodox move paid off, as Lao Ji was knocked off guard from being headbutted by Choji's now giant head. Choji made both of his hands into palms. They soon glowed blue as they started channeling chakra human jackhammer. He shouted. Lao Ji grunted in pain as he was sent flying into a tree by Choji's palm strikes. El Directo. Lao Ji quickly recovered, and just in time to dodge Chad's attack. Chad, Choji said, let's get him to pop. Chad grunted in response. Choji then altered the size of his hair. Expansion jutsu. He shouted. Spiky human boulder. Lao Ji watched as Choji's hair covered his human boulder technique, turning him into a rolling ball of spikes. He leapt out of the way, only for Choji to follow him. I cannot attack him in that form. Lao Ji noted. Lao Ji leapt into the air and dodged the rolling Choji. Chad, however, leapt into the air with him and punched him in the gut with Brazo Derecho del Gigante. Lao Ji cried out as he was sent flying into the ground. Now, Chad shouted. Lao Ji then saw Choza Akamichi loom over him with an enormous fist raised. Choji and Chad watched as Choza brought the enormous fist down on Lao Ji. Did we get him? Chad asked. I hope so, Choji said. He was pretty tough for an old man. Choji then saw something move behind his dad. He immediately realized what was happening. Pop! Look out! He shouted. Choza spun around, only to hear the next 3 words spoken. Great twin punch. Choza was then struck in the face by 2 fists. Lao Ji landed gracefully on the ground as the Akamichi clan head toppled over. Pop! Choji screamed in worry. Chad was looking at Lao Ji with shock on his face. How could he be that fast? Are all pirates really as tough as him? A member of the Don Quixote family would never go down that easy. Lao Ji told them. Pop! Choji muttered in worry. Worry about your dad later, Choji. Chad told him. I'm sorry, but I need you to focus. These pirates are clearly not ordinary humans. We should have realized that when we were introduced to people like Zoro and Sanji. Choji regained his composure and nodded. Yeah, you're right, sorry for losing my cool for a moment there, Chad. He apologized. It's okay, don't worry about it, said Chad. My dad was stronger than both of us. Choji said grimly. How are we gonna beat this guy? We'll find a way, Chad said with certainty. We've landed plenty of hits on him already, that proves we're at least strong enough to match him. Choji grinned. I'm good with whatever plan you've got, Chad. Chad smiled lightly. It's the plan that Ichigo always has when he goes in for a fight. He told him. What's that? Beat the other guy up until he can't get up anymore. It's served Ichigo pretty well so far. Chad explained. Choji frowned. Not much of a plan, but I guess at this point conventional strategy kind of goes out the window. And besides, Choji watched as several foot soldiers fought one another. We can't drag this out too long. Even if the hidden mist jutsu is gone, its aftereffects are being felt, what with all the wounded and dead. Also, those vines on the other side of the forest are still giving the others hell. And then there's that woman Sakura's fighting, you know, the one who summoned those soldiers. Who knows how many others she's got up her sleeve. Chad nodded. So we hit him hard and fast. Choji nodded in agreement. Yeah, hard and fast. Lao Ji formed a G with his hands. Are you younglings done yet? I'm not getting any younger after all. Partial expansion jutsu. Choji shouted, as his fists grew. Choji charged Lao Ji and started swinging his giant fists at the elderly member of the Don Quixote pirates. Lao Ji eventually countered with a palm strike to Choji's face, sending the young Akamichi flying back. Lao Ji then noticed Chad coming at him with Brazo Derecho del Gigante. Lao Ji leaned back to dodge the attack. Here, he struck. Godly chop. Lao Ji struck Chad in the neck, knocking him to the ground. Face it, you're too weak to go against the Don Quixote family, boy. Why did you even bother joining this army? Lao Ji asked. Chad gritted his teeth. Because Ichigo wanted to do his part. He replied. This answer surprised Lao Ji. And if Ichigo's willing to do all he can for this war, then as his friend I've got no business sitting around and doing nothing. With that, Chad pushed himself off the ground and uppercutted Lao Ji in the chin, knocking off something very important. My glasses, he thought frantically. Lao Ji was then struck in the side and knocked away. Well said, Chad, Choji said. I know. A lot of the ninja in my generation feel the exact same way. Most of us were hesitant to fight in this war, Choji admitted, but Naruto, well, Shikamaru was right about him when he said something about him compels people to follow. And besides, Choji continued, grinning, Naruto's going to be the 6th Hokage. What kind of Hokage would he be if he's got cowardly subordinates backing him up? Choji then noticed Lao Ji's shattered glasses on the ground. Awesome, he exclaimed, we knocked off the old geezer's glasses. Choji turned his attention to Lao Ji. Expansion jutsu, he shouted, expanding. Human boulder. Choji rolled towards Lao Ji, who could barely see his opponent coming at him, partly due to his lack of glasses, and partly due to him being in a daze from Chad and Choji's attacks. Before he could react, Choji struck him with the human boulder, knocking him further back. Lao Ji struggled to his feet. Partial expansion jutsu, Choji shouted, as his hair expanded once again. This right here, Choji continued, is my tribute to Master Jiraiya. Choji then whipped his giant hair. Giant lion's mane. Lao Ji was struck in the face by Choji's spiky hair, sending him flying backwards once again. Lao Ji hit the ground and remained immobile. Choji laughed in victory. We did it, Chad, he shouted. Chad smiled lightly and nodded. Choji went over to Lao Ji's prone form. In your face, you old geezer. That's what you get. Here, Choji noticed something. On Lao Ji's face were a pair of glasses. But when did he? Before Choji could finish his thought, a leg came up. Gallant kick. Choji IED out as he was struck in the face by the foot of Lao Ji, who was down but definitely not out. No way, Chad muttered, how tough is this old man? Lao Ji quickly moved towards him. Chad moved the shield on his right arm in time to block Lao Ji's next attack. However, he wasn't prepared for what came next. Good palm, Lao Ji shouted, striking Chad in the face with a quick palm strike. Chad grunted in as he was sent backwards by Lao Ji's attack. Lao Ji made the letter G with his hands once again. Did you fools not think I had an extra pair of glasses with me? An old man needs to be prepared after all. Chad got to his feet. He then looked at Choji. Lao Ji brought both his hands back. When I knock you down, youngster, this time you're going to stay down. Before Lao Ji could rush towards Chad, however, he was suddenly stopped dead in his tracks. He looked to see what the problem was and his eyes widened. Choji had grabbed him with an enormous hand. How are you still conscious? Lao Ji asked angrily. Choji smirked. For an old geezer who likes to play dead, you're bad at telling when others are playing dead. Lao Ji struggled in Choji's grip. Let me go. I don't think you want me to. Choji pulled his hand back, bringing Lao Ji with him. Hey, Chad, Choji called. Catch. Choji tossed Lao Ji towards Chad. Chad nodded when he realized what the young Akamichi was planning. Chad started gathering spirit energy in the back of his arm. However, he did not release it with El Directo. No, he was planning something else. El Kohit. Chad shouted, propelling his arm forward with the spirit energy. Lao Ji was struck by Chad's new attack. The elderly member of the Don Quixote family screamed in pain as the attack racked his elderly body. Lao Ji hit the floor. This time, he was not getting up. Choji grinned in victory. Awesome finisher, Chad, he complimented. Chad smiled and nodded. Are you gonna be okay? Choji struggled to his feet. I'll be fine, let's just worry about everyone else. With that, the two rushed back into the fray, intent on helping the foot soldiers of the Alliance. Sakura vs. Meninas. Early on in the battle, soldiers in both the Alliance and the Coalition alike quickly realized it was unwise to be near a battle between two fighters that have super strength. Therefore, it was silently decided that Sakura Haruno and Menina's McCullen were given as much space as possible for their battle. Considering the destruction to the Worthwood Sea they had already caused, it was a wise decision on their part. Menina's and Sakura traded several punches and kicks in an intense showdown. Looks like your strength matches mine. Menina's noted. You really are an almost carbon copy of me. Sakura narrowed her eyes. Yeah, you're right, almost. She said lowly. Menina's blinked in surprise. You mean you agree with the fact that you're hideous and I'm beautiful? Sakura blinked in surprise as well. There was a brief pause between the two. Sakura's eyes widened when she realized her mistake. What? She screamed. She's not just lacking in beauty, but also brains. Menina's thought with a sweat drop. Cha, you tricked me, you cow. Sakura screamed. I did no such thing. You just admitted it. Menina's replied. Sakura rushed Menina's. Cherry blossom clash. Menina's enlarged the muscles on her arm and struck back. The two fists collided, creating an enormous shockwave that was felt by nearby soldiers. What the hell? A Soul Reaper shouted. Even with the amount of space we gave those two, we can still feel every attack they throw at each other. As expected from one of Lady Tsunade's apprentices, a leaf ninja spoke. At the rate she's going, she might just surpass Lady Tsunade. You think that will be enough? A soldat glared at the two Alliance soldiers. Ms. Menina's is a member of the Sternritter, the elite of the Wandenreich. With her letter P, the power, that pink-haired girl doesn't stand a chance. A second soldat added, sorry to say, but you would do well not to underestimate Sakura. The leaf ninja defended his comrade. The leaf don't give up. And if there's one thing Lady Tsunade passed on to her apprentices besides her medical techniques and battle prowess, it's her refusal to lose. It's that sort of pride that makes Lady Tsunade a great Hokage, and it's that kind of pride that will guarantee Sakura a victory against that woman. Neither woman gave the other an inch as they continued to clash. Cha! Sakura shouted, throwing her fist into the ground. Menina's leapt out of the way as Sakura created an enormous crater with her fist. Menina's landed and picked up one of the broken rocks. She effortlessly lifted it up and jumped into the air. She brought the broken rock down on Sakura, who easily destroyed it with an uppercut. Menina's, however, had planned for this and quickly followed up with a kick to Sakura's face, knocking her down. Menina's rushed towards Sakura's downed form and quickly punched her in the chest, only for Sakura to disappear in a puff of smoke and be replaced by a log. What the hell? Cha! Sakura shouted, appearing behind her. Cherry blossom clash. Menina's screamed in pain as Sakura struck her from behind. Menina's flew into several trees. Sakura then felt her fist go numb. This surprised her greatly. Am I feeling the blowback from my own strength? Sakura wondered. How is that even possible? She then saw Menina's get back to her feet. No way. Menina's leaned back, cracking her back in the process. Even with blood vein that still hurt. Menina's whined. I'm going to have to speak with His Majesty about increasing its capabilities even more. We might have actually underestimated these otherworld people. Sakura's eyes were wide when she looked at Menina's back. Other than the mark from where she had struck her, Menina's looked to be just fine. Menina's turned her attention back to Sakura. You ninja are a sneaky bunch, you know that. Then again, that is what you all do. Menina's raised her power level, surprising Sakura greatly. You're disgusting to look at. That forehead is hideous, and you're really not that bright, she said, forgetting the fact that Sakura had tricked her. But you've still proven yourself to be quite an annoyance. Suddenly, 3 large heart-shaped segments popped out of Menina's back. A halo shaped like a spiky, star-like Quincy icon appeared above her head. What is that? Sakura wondered. Quincy. Vollständig, Menina's introduced. The ultimate form of a Quincy. Menina's muscles started to expand even more. You're going to regret pushing me this far, Pinky, because now I will make your death even more painful. Menina's was now a highly muscular girl, much to Sakura's disgust, whose sweat dropped at the sight before her. And you call